Welcome back. Before, I was commentating. Now, I'm on the desk. It's a fantastic day here as we return. The break is over, and our fourth and final match is here. You can watch it. And, of course, if you're home playing, you might want to look as fancy as some of the other people here, like my man Toli. You can get your Tengu chest here. It's going to be all about that Cabrakan skin. No, my mistake. It's going to be Kernino's skin. He kind of looks like a bird.
Yeah.
It's
the great Tengu.
The great Tengu. So here he is, the great Tengu himself.
Hey, what's up? It's me, the great Tengu, here to commentate, or rather on the analyst desk for the Xbox NA series.
It's going to be a lot of fun. We've got the Blanche fan club, which is one of my favorite logos of all time. If anybody can guess, let me know why. And then, of course, Hype Unit. Shout-outs to all 217 people that are going to like any tweet about this match. But on a serious note, shout-outs to these teams. I think they're really fun to watch. The Blanche fan club has some of the top players in this side of the league. And, of course, Hype Unit had their fantastic look at the Mid-Season Invitational. So very excited to see these guys match up. Let's get to the picks and bans.
Formerly known as Heat Uprising in the first phase, the Blanche fan club has quite a hill to climb against Hype Unit, performing very well in the Mid-Season Invitational, finding the victory over Flashpoint, the European minor league team, and then almost beating the North American Armada, finding at least one game in that set. Very impressive stuff, but now back to the sticks.
It's going to be very interesting watching Hype come here because, again, you had their recent success at the Mid-Season Invitational, and a lot of stuff. Obviously, we saw the games that they played above, but don't forget, you're coming here, you're scrimming against these teams of high caliber, you're playing against these different squads, you're mixing and matching with players, even just in between the games, you're sitting out there with the best players in the world, and you're talking, well, what do you think about this pick? And you get to ask iRaffer what he thinks about this Guardian. You get to ask, all Ataraxia what he thinks about this itemization.
Sure.
That's an interesting look for Hype Unit, so I'm very excited to see what goes down.
And a very fun thing that they did during the mid-season was the fact that Layers brought out the Guan Yu Jungle. The old school Season 3 DJ Pernicus days reviving into full fruition and making it work to the point where other players throughout the tournament started to play it themselves.
It was interesting, too. You bring up the old school thought process there, but Layers had his own spin on it. We saw the leveling of the dash.
Yes.
We used to see support Guan Yu to level the dash, right?
Sure.
You see that here in the jungle. A little bit of innovation as well. And like you said, we saw some of the PC teams, some of the very, very good players going down that route as well. Picks and bans for game number one here. I'm using Cobb first and foremost, as some of the powerful characters have been banned away. And Hype Unit going Jing and Horus. So a nice little duo lane there as far as I'm concerned. Horus mainly a support. And then Blanche answering. They've got a King Arthur, which is almost undoubtedly for Delnyy. And then Terra will show up as well.
No surprise that the magical ADCs are getting banned, and even despite some of the small itty-bitty nerfs to Muzen Cobb still getting prioritized, very difficult to contest his clear power in the early game, but there could be ways to shut him down otherwise besides the pushing.
Something we don't see a lot of the time is this Odin.
Yeah.
And it's funny because here on the console world, we talk about the differences of meta and why there are many different reasons for many different metas, but one of the many of those reasons is player performance and player tendency. Wolves is Odin. That's just a thing. So we see a lot more Odin bans against Wolves than we do elsewhere in the game, PC or console otherwise. Even with an extra ban here, as we're in our second phase, Blanche forgot, opted not to.
I was going to make that point that an extra ban and you don't ban away Wolves as Odin, like that's an extra throwaway ban if anything.
Sure.
But instead, maybe challenging Wolves to play Odin. They would rather face off as Odin than maybe an Achilles, which Hype Unit actually does ban away in the secondary phase anyway, so they would rather have to worry about that. You also have the jungle pick available for Blanche, so the BLNCH could be an option to counter that.
The idea, I think, is that, Wolves has made a name for himself on the Odin, but other characters have come out since then. Maybe Odin's just old hat. You're good at it, but, what else are you leaving on the table by picking an Odin? So Hype Unit going to go with old school style. Odin, Ra, two of the oldest characters in the entire game. Blanche going to go ahead and answer back with a Nuwa and a Chaac money, baby.
Boy.
One of the characters that has seen one of the smaller changes, and this is a high level change, and it's a feels change. So watching it should be interesting. When you knock players up with the ultimate, they now go straight up rather than carry their momentum, which can sometimes make these Chaac initiations haphazard. Now, you've got this Gebalt, basically, and it's going to be an interesting look.
And it's going to be coming from the jungle as well. I doubt we'll see Arthur in that role unless we're flexing things around. So Chaac going to be making the statement very early this game.
We saw some of the changes that Aries has had as well chained up, and it could be enough. The Blanche fan club versus Hype Unit, Game 1.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Totally. Finch and Taco here on the call to round out the day with our final set. And what better way to get started than by making sure our players are taken care of? Fatal Ghost, a quick pause here for Blanche Fan Club, which means you'll likely get to see our wonderful faces. There they are. Taco, we're just about to move into the action here in just a moment, but it's hard, I think, not to favor Hype Unit. I believe they're still playing with Gryph, even though he's announced that he won't be with the team throughout the remainder of the phase, so he's come in for this first game here for him to help him out.
I just needed a fill-in, but yeah, Gryph has made it clear to the public as well as to his team that he will be taking a step back for his own personal reasons, I'm sure, but solid player all around. Definitely not going to be an easy matchup for Fatal Ghost, but it's definitely a matchup that Fatal Ghost is familiar with by now.
You're right. These are both long-time console players here, so Fatal Ghost will be no stranger to going up against young man Gryph and some of what he can bring in that duo lane. You know, I told Gryph, man, come back phase 2 with the Gryph saves tag. Unfortunately, won't be able to see him much anymore, so thank you for coming in and playing one more here with us. I'm sure Hype Unit are happy to have them. This squad, man, when they're all together like this, they're just hard to beat. They were the top team last phase, though it was pretty close. Heat Uprise was right there with them, though some of that self-inflicted. I expect Hype Unit to keep looking strong as Layers shows us the Aries Jungle. Not going to be able to find the kill here, though, against Key.
And that might seem a little bit surprising to some of you guys, but Finch was not trolling. This is, in fact, an Aries Jungle. His clear now substantially better ever since the recent buff to his flames has really solid clear now. And just taking full advantage of it, trying to pressure out the mid lane relatively early on to give oBoronic as much space as possible to farm up on this Raw.
Inbound showing what Horus can do aggressively in the dual lane. And it's taken a lot of damage here early, as now it looks like they don't have much of a choice but to try and commit to winning this fight, but they can't quite get there. Blanche Fan Club, BFC do enough to push them back.
Inbound kind of close there, if you think about it. IAmTheHamster was just running on cooldowns for a second, but Terra's team fight, or I shouldn't even say team fight, I'm going to say lane fight capability definitely becomes a little bit more felt after she hits level 3.
Hamster's low, but Gryph uses speed so he can keep up the chase. Agility closes the distance, and there should be first blood. Gryph finds the basic, and that's Hype Unit on the board already. Fatal Ghost in some trouble, is able to get out of there. This new Wah can't quite keep up here in the early game.
Rough early start, though, for the Blanche Fan Club. It's going to be tough for IAmTheHamster to try and recover now. If there's one spot that we've always been a fan of Horus being in, it's from ahead, because he's practically designed to fight.
Yes, you're exactly right. But I just thought about it. Why are they all in duo lane? What is this? What year is this, guys? Get out of there. There's just a 2v2 happening over there like it's 2017 or something.
In all fairness, I would not be surprised if Wolves and Delnyy told both of their teams to stay away from my solo lane.
That's right. They want the 1v1 over here. Wolves is on the Odin, and this is a good time to kind of talk, I guess, about what everyone's playing. This is a staple pick for Wolves if there ever was one. He loves to play Odin and has really strong games on it. Layers is on Aries. Layers been very willing to play stuff others haven't. Oboronic's on the Raw, which I actually kind of like paired up with this Aries. I mean, we always say Raw wants good setup. That's about as good as it gets, is if he pulls someone in with a no escape.
Keegan on that Muzen Cobb, though, in mid. He'll probably be the first one to have to look out for that no escape out of Layers. Since it is Aries in the jungle, it's going to be a lot easier for this Aries to kind of pressure out Hamster and Keegan. I'd expect that, honestly, the entirety of Blanche Fan Club could end up struggling with this Aries pick. It's just such a strong selection into their entire lineup.
It is pretty strong to cut out some of their mobility. There's a good amount of, CC immunity on the team, so they won't all get pulled in by the ultimate. But that's why I think you're right to kind of hone in on those chains. Those could be a much bigger problem for this team even than the actual no escape ultimate. So Layers, a lot on his shoulders. Though he showed us at LAN, man, he and oBoronic clearly capable of stepping up when they need to with some of their plays.
It definitely feels just a little bad, though, going back from the LAN environment to online play. I know that
Sure.
Layers, as well as some of the other members from Hype Unit, have definitely made it known that they were missing out on some of that MSI. Hard not to reminisce, though, when that LAN event was so critical for them.
Yeah, I think that they really just kind of made individual names more to... And if you've been following console, you've known already that these players are really strong. It's some players who weren't as inundated in that scene that I think got to be introduced to Layers and to oBoronic and to the rest of the team too. I mean, clearly plays are being made everywhere for them to have some of the success that they did. So hopefully they can keep that going here now. They're back home, back on, you know, controllers, I imagine. They got to do some work on keyboard and mouse here at the actual LAN. So they'll have to come back and prove that they're still the best here in their home turf.
Well, right now, Hype Unit, First Blood is really the only lead that they've managed to establish so far, but I guess that's kind of to be expected when dealing with a veteran team like Blanche Fan Club. It's probably one of the more evenly matched sets we've had today.
Yes, this does seem to be a pretty close match between them. I'm interested in how this Chaac in the jungle is going to work for them. It does seem like a bit of a cruel joke that Tom doesn't get to cast this game where we see Chaac off roll, since he does, you know, like to support Chaac in different spots. And it makes a bit more sense now. You heard him talking about how Chaac's ultimate is just straight up now instead of that knockback. A little bit more similar to like a Wrath of Terra, I think is how you can think of it from Sylvanas, but with the, you know, the silence on there as well. I think maybe there's some room for it.
I think that that's my largest issue, though, with the Chaac jungle, is that outside of damage, I'm just not certain that the silence is going to maintain much relevancy here up against Hype Unit's composition. I mean, you silence out a Jing, she doesn't care. She's just going to keep autoing you, and I don't think that's going to be impactful enough against oBoronic on the Raw either to really prevent him from still dealing the full extent of his own damage. It doesn't seem like Hype Unit is really running a composition that requires a lot of interruption.
Well, Inbound moves in. He's dropped the Horus ultimate. No escape is on Hamster. He will be pulled in, and the searing pain is there to burn away the flesh. Hamster falls first. It's Hype Unit who are out on top. And I think that's enough, man. 3 ultimates used, 1 kill gotten. They're just going to back off.
It's starting to see a reoccurring theme here as well from Hype Unit. IAmTheHamster might just be the only target that they're after. This Terra, by far, the easiest one to punish on the team.
And you were saying that Keegan might be a bit of a target for them on the Muzen comp as well. I think they've got several good options to look at with Layers on this Aries and the no escape pull in particular. And if he does start trying to get some cooldown in, get these ultimates off more often, then it really won't even matter how good your ultimate is for CC immunity. You just won't have them enough.
But on the bright side for Blanche Fan Club, they might have had a couple of early spills on their support. Still hasn't prevented IAmTheHamster from ringing in at level 5. And honestly, when it comes to Terra, all you really need is the ability to drop that ultimate for a team fight engagement. Could possibly even bail himself out on an instance or two if Hype Unit aren't able to clean things up right away. But I am also looking towards the fact that Hype Unit hasn't really had an opportunity to invade here.
Not really. They haven't been moving into the other side of the map so much up against Blanche and trying to force any kind of lead or anything like that. So far, I don't know how much, you know, they really outclass them in terms of presence. I think they have a better fight if they can get the fight set up. But if it's a scrappier one, I might favor Blanche at this point. I mean, a Chaac, a Muzen Cobb, a Terra, they don't feel too bad.
Lots of chaos, that's for sure, with Blanche's current composition. But right now, it's trouble for Wolves over there, and solo lane gonna get gobbled up by Delnyy and that King Arthur execute new wall of fire shards to boot, but still not gonna be enough damage to bring down the Odin.
Wolves keeps right on moving. Warrior's Blessing wasn't even finished yet for that, and he still lives. Now Layers putting the pressure onto Keegan. This will force the beads out from him. He does still have them, so he'll survive, but Layers is okay with that every time, trading the blink and the ultimate for beads.
Almost thought that Layers might be interested in looking for the CDR boots as opposed to pen, but clearly trying to focus on damage as opposed to the cooldowns for this Aries jungle. And hey, whatever works. As long as you're consistent, I think, with Aries and his chains, you can really go either direction.
I think so too. So far, Layers has played a pretty good game though, and hasn't allowed for any such juking of the chains. Now they're going to do exactly what you asked for. Aggression to the jungle. Inbound tries to go into the ultimate to get away. It's not in time. He bit off more than he could chew there. But the rest of Hype Unit aren't done fighting. There's the ultimate from Hamster. And this is what I mean. If the setup isn't there, then I think Blanche can actually do a decent job fighting back with this comp.
oGryph seems like he's a little bit stuck in place there. Thought for a second that Jangaru would be able to capitalize, but that Jingwei airstrike will be good enough. And all the while that Blanche fan club was distracted chasing down the members of Hype Unit, no one even realized that oBoronic was there just soloing the red buff by himself. So a successful buff invade from Hype Unit, although it will come at Inbound's expense. But considering that Hype Unit were the ones trying to play aggressive to begin with, they're probably okay with making that trade out. They wanted the buff timer.
And they are indeed able to grab it. That is funny that oBoronic was able to just kind of chill in that last fight. Taking a look at some of these builds, though, here, Tonko. Looks like Gauntlet of Thieves being worked on for both our supports. That would normally be worth reporting on, but earlier in the day, we didn't see much of it, despite how good I'm convinced Gauntlet of Thieves is, so now we are indeed seeing them start to move in that direction and the world makes sense yet again. None of those Arthurian items, though, just yet.
All the attention has been on Pridewin as of late, Finch, especially for the sets that have taken place so far. And you are correct. It is indeed a very strong item that every support and solo laner seems to be prioritizing or working into their build at some point.
How do you feel about it as a one-off item? Because obviously it is better if you've got some other protections in the build. It clearly built up off that. But I mean, it's not too bad on its own, just with its base stats and a nice shield. Do you like it as sort of the like splashing into defense is your only
Probably one of the best hybrid build items you could ask for right now.
Just do it, yeah. I agree. I'm right there with you, Taco. Buy it. Don't even worry.
I think it's, honestly, I would probably favor it over the Blackthorn, even.
What? No way. Blackthorn's so good.
It's good, though. It is so
But
good.
health and
If you're looking
CR
for
and
a
damage.
better defensive option,
I see.
Pridewin is your go-to. as
Blackthorn's
opposed to
like
the
a
health.
little bit more, perhaps offensive, I suppose. As Hamster will get pulled in right into the ultimate. oBoronic completes the combo quite easily. Keegan does slow layers down the back end, but I mean, there's just no way to punish.
Hamster already knew it was coming next also, but right now it's about Keegan trying to stay safe. Gonna have to burn out those purification beads rather early on, but the Honey Slow will do the trick for now. That is until oGryph decides to rotate in, doesn't have that airstrike or doesn't want to drop it just yet. Concerned that Fiddle Ghost might be able to punish him on the backside if he dives.
Bit of a madman, though, oGryph is, as he dives for that kill. Can't find it, but they've pushed out Blanche enough. They can just come right back towards the Gold Fury. They've got the sustain, not just from oBoronic, but from Inbound as well. So Blanche are on their way. They might have a chance. Yes, Hype Unit, drop the objective. Blanche have got them to stop.
Not willing to take that 50-50 gamble just yet. Maybe when there's a little bit more damage to boot, but for right now, without oBoronic Searing Pain, it's just not worth the risk. Hype Unit have started to develop the first real lead in this game, Finch, from those last couple of successful picks, and it's just not worth dropping all of that right now on a mishandled Gold Fury.
So instead, they play it safe, and Blanche are able to do just enough to truly keep this one in striking distance. Only about 1,000 gold between these two teams right now, Taco, so it's not as if Blanche are out of reach. 2,000 experience, also not a death sentence by any means. So Blanche can still play things close and stay within it, though it looks like the one that's itemizing into anti-heal better is Hype Unit. I was going to try and go through these builds, but I'm on the Hype Unit side. Divine Ruin already here for oBoronic. It's Blanche that need to start trying to get into that sooner rather than later.
This could actually wind up working out, though, for IAmTheHamster, because oBoronic, he's got the CDR boots, a little bit of pen from that Divine, but the power is what I'm really taking note of, because between Celestial Beam and Searing Pain, IAmTheHamster might actually manage to survive, since oBoronic doesn't have as much outright burst damage as other mages might have already opted for.
They did rectify the lack of anti-heal quickly. It's been picked up now by Fatal Ghost, but Hamster's in trouble. You said there might not be enough damage, and maybe you were right. He's able to just barely sneak his way out of there and stay alive. So Hype Unit, despite plenty of attempts, still only have 3 kills on the board. They have not run away with it.
This Terra, though, having been forced back means that Hype Unit will have another power play opportunity, and they're looking to siege it. Wolves' rotation in means that Fatal Ghost is going to have to back off. Hype Unit managed to confirm despite Delny's best attempt to interfere, and now it's just scattering from Hype Unit. They're looking to aggress.
They won't be able to pull him back in, though. He still has the ultimate. That allows him to disengage, and he should have it back before too long, but Hype Unit still happy with that fight, able to have it on 2 fronts. 3 members, I think, were on the actual Gold Fury, and 2 were still bullying up by the red buff type.
That was just a great distraction from Wolves. Coming through the back line so deeply, it was the main reason why Blanche just could not afford to try and push any further. Wolves also still had the cage available if need be.
And soon you'll have the Pride win available. Y'all want some Pride win? Is that what we're in the mood for, ladies and gentlemen, where he's started on it already? And if Odin, you know, shield wasn't enough by itself, he'll have another shield coming in soon to help him out even more. So good luck killing him. They haven't done it yet. This is their tiny window, and maybe they can. Once he finishes it, very likely they can.
I gotta say though, Finch, Jangaru with this Chaac Jungle, his window of opportunity to shine is kind of whittling away as we speak. I just don't know how this Chaac is going to really progress into the mid and late game. Like, yes, I still feel like the damage numbers can certainly be there, especially if he manages to finish off this Transcendence in a reasonable time frame, but then you have to worry about the stacks, and not only that, but it's kind of awkward having a damage-loaded Chaac into Hype Unit's current composition because they have the sustain for that out-of-combat healing.
Exactly right. It's not as if he gives them an edge they wouldn't otherwise have. Layers, though, might be in trouble. They've caught him with the silence, and it is enough. Jangaru sets up for a kill in the jungle on an isolated Layers. And the rest of Blanche are nearby, 5 members strong. They want to move towards Pyromancer and try and force a power play fight.
That pincer maneuver from Delnyy also coming up pretty big there for Blanche fan club. This Pyromancer seems to be next on the menu, but Wolves not looking to let it go down for free.
Inbound comes in right away with the Horus ultimate and then leaves just as quickly as he got here. Keegan is the one that grabs that kill. Wolves still, though, trying to fight for what it's worth. This Fire Giant gets procced, puts in a little damage of his own, but Wolves now slowed, is in a whole lot of trouble. Fatal Ghost is on his way too. He does get the jump off, but with that wall stun, it's hard to imagine Wolves survives when the Stinger comes through.
oBoronic will wind up falling as well. All of Blanche just kind of smothering Hype Unit in the process. And what looked like a decent Pyromancer pool is just going to turn into a... Well, excuse me, oGryph going to shut that one down in the process as IAmTheHamster oversteps his boundaries.
He even gets the airstrike off that allows him to reposition, actually puts out decent damage, and Layers has made his way back to the fray, so they find one more kill to make it, I believe, 2 for 2 overall, maybe even a little bit more in Blanche's favor. But the Pyromancer still stands. They did get the Tier 1 tower in right, but Hype Unit saved that fight from being a lot worse.
Blanche fan club, I think, just overstaying one moment too long. Should have just called it quits after the T1 tower, but it's still a decent bit of map pressure that Blanche has opened up for themselves, and will give them a little bit more wiggle room, I think, in terms of trying to chase down Hype Unit. I think now it's kind of clear that for Blanche, they just have to be all in. The second that Jangaru decides to commit that Chaac ultimate for the engagement, there's no slowing down. You can't suddenly hit the brakes. You just have to Wrecking Ball through.
Have that brief window with the silence. The slows will add on to that as well. They must capitalize on it. And Jangaru is not... He doesn't have any breaks. He's gone all in on damage. Jotun's Transcendence, the Warrior Tabai. He's not trying to halfway it here right now with this build. He wants to be the one that's dealing the damage. He's 3rd in the game and on his team. So certainly there in that regard. It's just a question of will that be enough up against all this sustain from Hype Unit.
Then again, Fatal Ghost does have the Divine Ruin finished off now. No Brawlers beat sticks to toe just yet, or even the Contagions for maybe Delnyy or IAmTheHamster. So the sustain from this Raw, not necessarily super threatening under the control of the new wall, but then again, oBoronic, it's going to be tough to shut him down whenever that Fire Shards isn't available.
That's about the best thing, really, they have trying to slow it down, is Hype Unit have a decent presence near this next Fury spawn, but they're still 15 seconds early, so they'll disperse for now, and that means Blanche have plenty of time to sit back and chill and wonder where they'll be going with their builds. It's Soul Gem there for Fatal Ghost, a bit of a throwback towards those old, like, proc builds that we saw New WoW building towards the beginning of the year. Maybe Fatal Ghost still liking that idea.
Well, considering that Fatal Ghost has pretty much been left alone in that dual lane, it's just been him and oGryph for largely outside of the few rotations that both of these hunters have opted for, semi-early on as well.
I'm not saying New WoW's bad, but does a fed New WoW bring here? We'll find out later on in the game, as Hype Unit have already taken quite a bit of damage, but there's chains on just about everyone. Layers pulls them all back underneath the tier 1 tower, but now he's the one on the menu. Jukes out enough damage to make it back towards the rest of his team, and Delnyy, though, finally is able to lock him down with an ultimate of his own. Layers, though, did it work, even though he pays for it with his life.
T1 tower gonna wind up falling. Gryph will pick up one in the process. However, these crits shining through right now for the Jing Wei. Fatal Ghost gonna lose the Aegis as well, but it's an agility out for Gryph. He's looking for the disengage off airstrike.
He's entirely disengaged. The tier 1 tower fell in favor of Blanche, but look at Wolves way on the back, finding 3 members, and now it's time for the cavalry inbound. Charges in with him for another heal, and Wolves is not done chasing. He's got some slows of his own.
Oh! Jangaru got the axe toss over the wall, but wasn't able to follow it through with the teleport. A T1 for T1, but the Primal Fury is looking awfully tasty right now for Hype Unit. And I don't blame him. It's practically free. 3 members of Blanche fan club still dead for the count. Delnyy and IAmTheHamster are up and running, but just don't think they'll make it there in time.
I can't believe Griff's leaving. He's given us another really good game, as he potentially could be on his way out. 4-0-1 in the Jing Wei. And he's had some really interesting positioning so far this game. He's been on the back of fights, he's been away from his back line, almost like a flanker, and he's gotten a ton of damage out for it. I feel like this Jing Wei's looked great.
I have to credit a lot of this, though, to Wolves. His ability to kind of draw all eyes onto himself has definitely created a lot of room for Gryph to operate in. And Gryph, I mean, kudos to the man. He's definitely taking full advantage of it, which is exactly the reason why I think we see Wolves being so willing to kind of lead the charge.
He knows that he's going to have Gryph there to follow up. I wonder if we are going to be seeing that Feel Knot from Gryph later on, too, since he's already got the Rage and the Deathbringer and the Executioner there completed. It could certainly still fit into this comp with some extra crit chance, and then obviously spread that love a little bit to whoever he ends up marking. Cooldown, no Hunter would say no to that, and then a decent amount of power, too, so certainly could be strong for him if he wants.
Oh, Keegan gonna get caught up in that no escape, but just like the other few times before, has the Purification Beads to cleanse it in the process. Delnyy, though, going to come swooping in on this King Arthur. It's an all-out brawl in mid.
So is Jangaru. He silences 3 and the knockup, and Gryph is the target. Removed the Jing Wei early on, and that makes things much better for Blanche. He will be the one that comes away, Delnyy, I mean, with the credit for the kill. But where will they go with it? Pyromancer's certainly a strong target. It's just Wolves nearby to try and stop this push from happening. 4v5, Hype Unit want to try and jump in.
Have to remember, though, that Keegan doesn't have those Purification Beads, can't really afford to get caught up in a CC chain, just like what Layers and Inbound are trying to do to him right now.
They know that he's the target. They went right for him in the back line. Wolves gets the kill first. Fatal Ghost needs some backup as well. Someone get back here and keep the carries alive. They just can't do it. Wolves wreaks havoc by jumping right to the back line. Now Delny's in some trouble as Layers drops the chains.
Man, you know, we kept talking about this Aries being problematic, but right now it's all about this Odin cage. Jangaru gonna do what he can with the Chaac silence, but it is just nowhere near enough. Delnyy now looking to follow suit, trying to hang on where he can. Some decent damage gonna follow up from oBoronic, but the sustain from the Horus and the Rock combined means that Delnyy won't be able to find a counter pick opportunity onto Layers.
That's a deicide for Hype Unit. Who needs Pyro when Fire Giant's right here? They don't settle for the little brother. They'll have all 5 members able to grab this buff too, but what an impressive fight from Hype Unit. And like you said, Wolves has had a heck of a game for himself so far. And this is why we say Chaac doesn't do much. Because when it's Wolves and Layers sitting on the back line and Jangaru's there, he's just kind of swinging away with an axe and they don't care much.
They have practically ignored Jangaru.
Yeah.
I mean, he's had 1 or 2 really solid, I think, silences, but aside from that, I still don't really see a ton of the merit. I know that he's top of the charts there in the player damage also, but guys, I really can't stress it enough. All that damage when he tosses it out is being immediately counteracted because Boronic's heals, because of Inbound's healing. And this Brawlers might, if it is a Brawlers, it could be a Crusher, but
hopefully
I think it would hope, I would have to hope it's a Brawlers, because that would make Jangaru's damage feel a little bit more relevant as opposed to where it currently stands.
It does feel like Chaac's able to oftentimes do most of the damage you need, but not all of the damage that you need. But to be fair, they're going to need some help elsewhere from the team. I don't know that we've seen quite enough from Fatal Ghost either so far on this new WoW. That's also felt a little bit underwhelming. Maybe just Blanche in general need a little bit more time before this comp can do what it is they truly like. It's just they're not going to get it. Hype unit continue on with the pressure. More crit going to be coming from Gryph here soon as well. Things get scary.
IAmTheHamster trying to be careful to not let Inbound pull that Magai's Cloak proc for free. Needs to hold on to it for as long as possible. Ideally through layers, no escape, so that we don't see this Terra wind up on the menu for Hype unit yet again. And drawing things back to where we were having that initial Aries discussion of, oh, there's a couple members without CC immunity on their ultimates. This could be really strong opportunity for Hype unit to punish, but one Phantom might not have been enough. I think that it was safe to say that 2 Phantoms could have even been the play here for Blanche.
That's right. There was a lot they could have used. A cursed Ankh, perhaps, even. I don't know if the Relic game is on point for them at all in this game from Blanche. There's a lot of stuff they would love to have to try and keep them being able to be aggressive into Hype Unit's comp. Instead, it's the other way around. Hype Unit now going to push into this Tier 2 on the left-hand side. And it looks like Blanche do at least want to position somewhat to defend. 3 members here and 2 rotating in. It looks like Horus is going to be the one to get it started. Fatal Ghost, the early target. Layers pulls in one more. It's Delnyy, and he's already been removed. Oboronic gets credit, and then Wolves drops the cage way in the back to cut off any extra healing. Gryph gets Keegan. Gryph gets a double. Fatal Ghost falls as well, and now Jangaru being hunted. He is able to blink to allow himself to reposition, but Hamster pushed out. This bites all Hype unit.
Wolves is still going to chase Hamster down, not content to let this Terra make it back to her fountain, and will successfully cut off IAmTheHamster with the bird bomb dunk of a lifetime here. And now, only Jangaru remains. Left side Phoenix being siege finished. This is looking like a game 1 all Hype unit.
It absolutely does. Jangaru doesn't even have the Storm Call here to try and defend, so very unlikely that he can stop this Titan siege by himself. Hype unit grab game number 1 up against Blanche Fan Club. Hype unit right back to where they were the last time we saw them.
Jangaru couldn't stop it, but he was sure to make it as annoying as possible there, tossing out the slows underneath that rain. But a little bit unfortunate there, I think, for Blanche Fan Club. But I think we saw some instances of promise of what this Chaac composition could have been.
Sure.
But ultimately, it was just too much trying to deal with both Wolves and Layers simultaneously.
Yeah, it is the fundamental question I always ask myself when you pick Chaac, which is why. You know, if you're picking him because he does damage, there's a lot of people that do damage better. If you're picking him because he's tanky, a lot of people that do that tanky thing better. He just feels like he's kind of in between. He doesn't excel really at either one. Though Jangaru, for what it's worth, I don't think he was the problem here with this game. He had a strong game. They couldn't keep Keegan safe. I don't know that they ever got enough out of Fatal Ghost.
It was impossible to keep IAmTheHamster alive as well.
Oh, yeah.
If Hype unit wanted that Terra dead, Hamster was dying. I mean, no fault of his own either. It's just you're at the mercy of Hype unit's composition by that point.
And I love how willing Hype unit are to play just about anything, man. Layers on that Aries in the jungle. Clearly, we can see why people are thinking that that one's strong. A great game for them. But can they get it done in game 2? We'll find out right after this break.
The SMITE Console League brought to you by Titan Forge, Hi-Res Studios, INAP, Respawn, Steel Series, Alienware, and Skillshop.
up, demons? It's your boy Tom Battinger next to the illustrious Anatoly Alexeyev. And as we get back into this one, game one in the books, and what's the word? One-sided. Let's get a hyphen. That's one word. One-sided is what I would call this.
So when mid-season patch came out, I didn't expect such creativity of Aries Jungle from Layers, but hey, he made it work. I like the fact that the Horus was played from Inbound. He's preferring this god. It actually led to that early first blood for Gryph, and a Jing that gets an early first blood is just cruising throughout the rest of the game.
Gotta love it. We'll see if game two is the same way. P's and B's pretty pleased as we look on Blanche Fan Club. Still a big fan of that logo. Numero uno. Hype, on the other hand. They got a cool logo. No dogs, no. Bands coming out. Jormungandr, Kronos. I expect to see some Freya ban. Do you expect to see the Odin ban?
After Wolves going 6-1, I would hope that there would be an Odin ban, especially now that we've went from 2 to 3 in the first phase. On top of this, Wolves did pick it up, though, a little bit earlier on, actually. So that's an interesting way to see what he's going to do with it.
Here's where it would be, and that's where it will be. No Odin, says Blanche. No thanks. We tried it. We didn't like it. Went the other direction. Ban coming out from Hype is going to be the Morgan.
The name
Blanche Fan Club will first pick the Freya, which was banned in game number 1.
That's true, that's true, as they need to do something with this early on. They can't allow Gryph to get that early lead the same way. Once he gets the lead, he's going to be able to run away with it. So this time around, Blanche Fan Club needs to find a way to not only shut him down, but get some momentum for themselves.
Should be interesting watching this one. Don't forget Gryph. We saw him announce that he's going to step down soon. It's going to be replaced a little bit later by Crimson, so we were talking to the guys about that. Big hopes for the future, but again, Gryph, a strong player in his own right, going in different directions for different reasons, so certainly no slouch here in the carry role. So you'll have to see him kind of a last stand. Give it up for Gryph. It's fun to watch this guy kind of do his thing. So that said, across the way, Anhur and Bacchus. Gryph not going to have an easy time in this lane.
Going to be aggressive. Probably going to see Freya and Bacchus in that side lane as opposed to the Anhur, as it's been more and more often seen in the mid lane, having a lot of ability damage. That Desert Fury is so obnoxious, as you're really safe to just rush the Transcendence in that lane.
An Achilles ban coming out from Hype Unit. They don't want to see Blanche pick that one up whatsoever. Geb is the answer back from BFC. Final ban for Hype is going to be Nike, one of the big changes that we saw in the mid-season patch. She now no longer has that plan of action. It's an actual ability, which is pretty devastating. And everything else is already amped up, so she's kind of nuts. Ban is good. Terra banned out by Blanche Fan Club, and that leaves Khepri open, which is exactly where I was going to go. You see the Execute banned out. It makes sense that you want to play the Khepri. Freya on her Bacchus. That said, Blanche, they still have Thanatos available if they wanted to go Execute, as well as Alquan.
Oh, that's very true. Those two Executes do respond well to the Scarab's Blessing, and when you're showing your cards this early on, between the Freya, between the Anhur, between the Bacchus as well, that's so aggressive. This is like as all in as you can get from those 3 picks, and now you're adding an Osiris and a Nemesis to this. If Blanche Fan Club don't get early kills, I'll be thoroughly surprised.
I mean, even in the mid game, what you're looking for, Nemesis ult, belly flop, and they're dead. That's the thought process, right? Kuzenbo across the way. And I like this choice. Freya, Anhur, Osiris, Nemesis, all basic attack oriented. You can go in 2 directions. Either you lean on characters that slow you down or do less damage, or do with Kuzenbo. We'll see if the Reflect is enough. Hype Unit up game 1. Game number 2, Finch. It's all about you, baby.
Thanks, Tom. I don't hear that a lot, so it's nice to hear it there from in front of everybody. It's me and Taco that are actually doing the show here together. As Blanche need to recover.
No, I mean, feel free to take this one, dude. You don't need me.
Well, he said it's all you, right?
I mean, he said it's all you, Finch.
That's right, exactly.
Not all Finch and Taco, which means I'll be taking this off now.
Listen, sometimes Finch gets gassed, okay? Taco, it's okay. We love it over here. As Blanche need to recover from a tough Game 1 loss. I think it was about 26 minutes on the clock, but it felt like it was all Hype Unit that entire time. And if they don't make some big adjustments, they'll be in for the same thing here again in short order. But they have Jangaru on the Nemesis instead of the Chaac here this time. Keegan is on this Anhur in the middle lane, and Fatal Ghost on a really potent hunter in the form of Freya. So, I mean, I don't know. They've already made some good adjustments.
Interesting, though, to see Keegan kind of defaulting back to some of his old dual habits here with the Hunter v Hunter matchup in mid. Anhur, not necessarily the matchup that you want, though, into the Muzen comp, but I can definitely see where the benefits might lie. If you can get a sick impale into the Desert Fury at level 5, that could be the advantage that Keegan needs to kind of keep this AMC suppressed.
That's really good analysis, Taco. Allow me to counter. Wolves has Guardian's Blessing in the 2nd slot, and they deserve to lose. And I mean that.
You know, some
Well, they
players-
might here right now. Inbound in trouble. Flop right into the belts, and that's enough. Fatal Ghost actually finds first blood. I wasn't trying to do that, but
I think they heard you.
no.
Actually.
No.
That's kind of messed up, Finch. Are you gonna apologize, or are you just gonna accept the money first from Blanche?
Yeah, I'm gonna pretend it didn't happen. Is gonna be the play. Inbound way too far forward, it felt like, but that's what Freya Bacchus can do. We haven't really given a chance to say it, but that is a beefy lane in terms of kill potential. At any moment, they could blow you up.
Yeah, Freya autos go through the entire wave.
Yes.
So even if that is at 1 damage, she will clear the full wave before you.
So you're saying that I hit the whole wave, but also could hit you? Like right?
I mean, I am hitting you, because every single Freya player only attacks the wave if you are also being hit in it.
Exactly. There's no real reason to go for clearing the wave. I'm not getting damage. It just basically, it's a roundabout way of saying Freya feels really good in lane, especially early, where she's able to get some nice pressure in this 2v2. And though Jing does have a decent matchup there, obviously can get out of the banish, it doesn't oftentimes feel like it's enough. And it also does not save Inbound, who was the one that died to first blood.
It also does not feel good to watch your support get first blooded to the Freya. I mean, that's going to be a pretty big advantage for Fatal Ghost. Although, I will add that Griff rushing boots first is definitely going to help him out with the recovery process of that lane, giving him some survivability of his own.
As the Ninja Tabi finished already, as blue buff appears to have been taken away here by Blanche. And Jangaru in some trouble. oBoronic has rotated all the way over here to the solo side, and that's enough to find one more kill. Cabrakan wants this Delnyy too, but he's just too healthy. No way they'll be able to get the Osiris here. Instead, they'll fall back.
Layers and Wolves, though, might be able to look for a buff invade of their own to make up for what Jangaru just stole away. Delnyy, though, not realizing that Inbound had made the rotation inwards. 3 members of Hype unit surrounding him and a good route in place to boot. Delny's looking toast.
Yeah, pushed into the Tremors. That's all they wrote. I love the idea there from Jangaru. But he came in and basically had a fireworks app on his phone. That did not help at all. And unfortunately, Delnyy goes back to
Yo,
base.
but it looked cool.
Right, yeah.
It's the thought that counts sometimes. Delnyy knew his jungler tried to save him,
Thoughts and prayers.
and sometimes that could be all the moral support that your solo laner needs.
Delnyy knows that his jungler has his back in Spirit. Griff does not use the agility there, now saves it for the belch on the back end. That's another thing that makes it so hard to lane here, is when do you time your agility? Just up against Bacchus on its own, it's tough, but now you have to worry about both of them. Griff's got to play this one really carefully.
Also got to be careful of not getting belly flopped immediately at following the
Right.
banish. Sometimes that can even catch the Jing out of her agility as well. And that forces out the airstrike. The second that Griff loses his airstrike, he loses the possibility of leaving his tower line.
Man, Taco, I really want to keep breaking down this duo lane, but Shoes of Focus just got built into the tier 1 slot, obviously, because Guardian's Blessing was in the wrong spot, and I can't stop looking at it, and it's awful. It's awful.
When you look at the colors blue and green, though, would you rather see blue first or green? And I feel like I would rather see blue first.
Yeah. Doesn't change anything, though, about the fact that Wolves has done us dirty.
Picture them as stripes.
Hopefully, Wolves can recover from this egregious early mistake.
And no. Actually, Wolves
Okay.
picked up a health chalice.
Oh, I didn't
to
even see
have
the green-blue-green
blue,
synergy.
green. So
It's a good eye there, Taco, as oBoronic takes an Intoxicate to the face. It does bring him down to half HP, but Layers is there. That stops Hamster in his tracks, and oBoronic makes it out. Even holds onto his beads. Can we say the same for Griff, though? Fatal Ghost and the rest of the boys aggressively moved up to try and grab that red buff.
Hype unit still able to defend their red buff, just barely. Blanche fan club definitely making it known pretty early on here. They're willing to get frisky from the start. It's really down to whether or not Hype Unit want to keep entertaining the thought, but Delnyy could be in some trouble of his own. Still has that Lord of the Afterlife, so we won't see Layers drop those tectonic plates just yet.
Jangaru's on his way to this, though, and this time the blink might be a little bit more impactful. Layers is shredded after that Divine Retribution, and Delnyy wants a little bit more. Can they lock down the Wolves here on the Kuzenbo on the right-hand side? He does not have the ultimate available to him, but he does still have the Sumo Slam to push Jangaru in. That's just enough to keep him alive.
Didn't have that Watery Grave. With the Watery Grave, I think Jangaru dies there, no doubt. 2 tower shots would have been guaranteed. The only hope might have been if Delnyy could have killed Wolves somehow underneath his T1 tower before his jungler. And I'm just not seeing a realistic possibility of a trade out there. But oGryph now starting to get the better end of Fatal Ghost.
That's the agility down. Fortunately, though, for him, it doesn't look like Hamster wanted to be aggressive. Instead, he came back to make sure red buff went down alongside Keegan, and Griff's able to make it back to lane A-OK. Still, though, a little bit behind in terms of experience to Freya. Fatal Ghost went right into those pin boots. Looks like ban prompts will be there next for him to try and finish that off.
Oh, with all of the ranks having been hit most recently with the latest update, Finch, that's put Freya into kind of a weird position where if she's actually able to get all of the farm and a game goes 30 minutes plus, I think she's still just as relevant as before those nerfs. But if you're able to shut her down early on and keep her down, then I don't really think that it'll be all that feasible for Fatal Ghost to be an active participant of these team fights. But Hype Unit have definitely struggled when looking for instances of punish against the Freya.
Red buff invaded successfully, and I find myself agreeing with you, Taco, as Hasten Ring is a luxury item now, right? It feels that way. It's up there around 2,700 gold and gives more power to be, relevant to that increased cost. So as long as you can get it later on, it's still good. But this could be trouble for Inbound, forcing the Scarab's blessing on himself. And Keegan's right there with the Desert Fury. No way out for the Khepri, but oGryph, he saw his friend die, so he wants to go in aggressive, but this might not be the fight for him. Valkyrie's discretion sends him back. Ultimate for ult.
Surprised that he'd be willing to go in the first place, probably just because he thought that those minions would have a little bit more of a deterrence factor there for Fatal Ghost, but keep in mind, Freya autos, they go through the creeps and straight onto you. So that was a boxing trade that oGryph just could not match up towards.
That sounds like a bad infomercial. We go straight through the creeps and right to you. It gave me that vibe there. As Keegan, he'll have a lot of time to think about it as he's been sent back to base. 20 plus for him. Layers is hard to get away from on the Cabrakan.
Every ADC's nightmare is a Cabrakan because as soon as he forces your jump, he's catching up to you regardless. And IAmTheHamster's about to find out the hard way if he's not careful here. Instead, Hype Unit gonna have to abandon the thought of picking this Bacchus. And a red buff successfully defended by the Blanche fan club. Same can't be said for those oracles, though. oGryph making sure to bring those down in favor of Hype Unit.
I do want to say, though, Taco, this is good recovery from Blanche. I mean, game 1 loss was pretty tough. Hype Unit, I feel like, was in control for almost all of that game. And they've drafted a little bit better here in this game to give themselves some early presence. And they've hung around here in game 2 a lot better.
Look, I'm not going to say that Jangaru was playing Chaac Jungle horribly, because he honestly didn't play it awful or anything like that. It's Chaac Jungle. It's
I think he played it well for what it's
as
worth,
relevant of a god pick choice, and I think that it did put Blanche fan club a little bit further behind.
Wolves, though, about to be gobbled up. Delnyy and Jangaru working together. That's a nice clean gank. Did he do as much damage as Chaac would have done?
That's some sick damage.
But a clean kill that he was able to find.
It probably did more damage than what the Chaac would have done, because the Chaac wind up to get his ult off would have taken a year and a half as is. Wolves would have just walked away from it.
Wolves would have been real slow, though. It's silent.
You think he gets Lorraine off in time?
No, I guess not.
I don't think so.
Dude, we're being too mean to Chaac Jungle. It can work sometimes.
Oh, I'm not gonna say it can work. It can't work. It can definitely work. Anything can work in Smite game right now. It's probably one of my favorite things about the game right now. It's just, is it ideal just because you can make it work?
Right. You have to consider, what you're giving up, right? What are some of the costs that come along with it? And this time, it's been pressure in the solo lane for Delnyy. Last time, Wolves had Delnyy really far behind. It's the other way around. Delnyy up 2 levels, 10 to 8, and they grabbed the tier 1. So you might even see this Osiris rotating a little more often, which could make life hard for oGryph and for oBoronic. Remember, oGryph unapologetically went into crit last game, just all in. I don't know if that's going to be as easy if this Osiris is way more relevant.
Would love to see a fail not for either oBoronic or oGryph here in this circumstance. I mean, you've got a double hunter composition, 2 hunters that are pretty solid to build that fail not on. Also, they both have big damage numbers on their ultimates, which I do think that it helps to have a hunter with an ability that deals damage on the ultimate to be followed up by the fail not.
Exactly. That's, you can benefit from some of that nice power that you get on the item as well, so it could be strong. I believe we've seen a Muzen Cobb's build fail not earlier today, so maybe we'll see if oBoronic follows that same path in the mid lane. But look how far back Wolves is on this Kuzenbo. All the way in the back line. We'll have to talk about that later as Inbound's the early target. Drops down the Scared's Blessing on the oBoronic to make sure that he lives. Layers comes in as well, but they just turn and burn him. That's too much damage. Hamster drops the Intoxicate.
Beautiful shifting Shan straight into the Impale there from Keegan. That was just patience all around. Keegan could have used that Impale a little bit sooner to try and prevent Bobby from making it underneath the T1 tower. Instead, holds onto it until the team fight fully develops.
oGryph banished, forced into the agility to reposition. Looks like Red Buff was defending this time, though couldn't pick it up. Is hyping it have to fall back. Wolves, though, continues to be under pressure from Delnyy on the right-hand side.
Wolves has also had a couple of unexpected visitors in his lane, I think, and Hype Unit, knowing that their soul laner has been under so much duress, just haven't really been able to make up for it elsewhere just yet. I mean, Fatal Ghost is doing a fantastic job holding his own on this Freya versus the Jing Wei, and I think some of these rotations now from oGryph are starting to bite him in the butt. He spent a lot of resources looking to try and make an impact with some of those early ganks, and they just did not actually progress into any kills, so it's mostly just missed creep farm.
It's got to try and make up, though, I think, for some of the deficit. I mean, it's not just Wolves. Inbound is a good bit behind Hamster as well. Level 9 to level 11, the Bacchus, so they're going to need some help to close that gap. Because this is where Bacchus loves to be, man. This is where he thrives, when he's a bit ahead in terms of levels and he has more damage than you're expecting, pin boots in the stone of binding. I mean, this is scary times to be trying to fight up against Blanche.
It's the attention to detail, though, from Blanche that I really appreciate when watching them actually maneuver throughout the map so far in this game. And don't get me wrong, it's still relatively early. We haven't even hit 15 minutes just yet, but the way that Blanche forces out certain abilities from Hype Unit so as to give them the best team fight possible, that is something that comes, I think, from experience alone.
Exactly, and this is a team, I mean, I don't know if we've given them enough credit yet here in this set, but I mean, these are not strangers here in the SCL by any means. I mean, I know Hype Unit comes with their big pedigree, but you see it on Keegan. He's got the World Champion tag. He's happy to show it to everyone else. These guys have been around for a while at this point, so certainly capable of any given day of giving Hype Unit a close match.
Speaking of which, Blanche Fan Club looking to bring the match straight to Hype Unit, pulling that Gold Fury, but it's going to be Inbound who's the target. A nice belly flop from IAmTheHamster is going to force that Scare's Blessing preemptively. Airstrike out from oGryph, but same can't be said for Inbound. He's already used his get out of jail free card.
He's certainly dead at this point. oGryph has to keep falling back, can't help in this fight. Meanwhile, oBoronic trying to deal with the thorns there from Delnyy, forced his Aegis early on and can't complete the kill into Keegan. That's another one for the Anhur middle. oGryph has been banished, but still has agility that allows him to reposition, and Blanche, after another strong fight, can head back towards Gold Fury, though without Jangaru, who's quite low.
Keegan having some second thoughts about jumping in right in front of a Kuzenbo, but that doesn't seem to really dissuade the rest of Blanche from pulling this Gold Fury. Then enjoying the spoils of war, man. oBoronic goes down, everybody else from Hype Unit forced out so incredibly low, and can't forget that Bobby did die in the start of the engagement. He's just... We've seen him dead so many times or poked out so low. This Khepri has just really struggled to have any sort of involvement.
And it's the two picks that are low pressure that have struggled so far. I mean, they have a Cabrakan, they have a Muzen Cobb. Those picks are going to be fine in terms of, like, you know, defending themselves early on. But this Kuzenbo in the long lane, the Khepri, they've both been getting bullied.
And Delny's just keeping the cyberbullying alive. But won't be to the full extent. Wolves does manage to successfully defend his blue buff, at least for the secure, but Delnyy having track of that timer, just like the rest of Blanche has had track of a lot of hype units buff timers, has been a big part of the reason why they slowly but surely crept up in this golden experience lead. It has just been constant. And that's probably the key here, is that Blanche fan club has not given hype unit room to breathe so far.
Well, they've constantly been putting questions to them, and so far, hype unit haven't had the answers. Inbound not just behind in terms of experience, but you can see the gold disparity where already the Gauntlet of Thieves is finished and Hamster has started stacking. Meanwhile, Inbound still in the tier 2, not even close just yet to being able to finish. And now Blanche gonna move right over to the Pyromancer. I can't think of a reason why they shouldn't. That's theirs, and hype unit couldn't even get there in time.
And it's minimal from Fatal Ghost, by the way, but that stoppage at the back from Griff, Fatal Ghost doesn't do that because he expects to start boxing with Griff. He does it to prevent Griff from having any sort of opportunity to involve himself with a possible Pyromancer defense, because hype unit knew it was happening. They just couldn't get any reinforcements in there in time to actually try and help play defense.
So the lead creeps further away here from hype unit in favor of Blanche. That experience is a real problem. 7,000 is a lot for 17 minutes of the game. We don't normally see them in that way where there's way more experience than gold. That's favoring one team that big of a margin. But so far, Blanche have just been farming better, and it really hurts that Inbound is level 11 still, not even to the second relic.
And Jangaru understood the matchup, man. He's got the Nemesis, so why not just use that Divine Judgment exclusively on the Kuzenbo solo that's not going to have beads or any other relic typically outside of the teleport. It's almost kind of like free pickings here for Jangaru, and he's just taking advantage of the situation.
He's had a much better game this time. I mean, it's hard not to see it exactly that way when you compare it to the Chaac from game number 1. But he's not the only one that's having a much better game. So is Hamster. I think he was on the Terra last game, and that was getting picked a lot, so just looking a lot better this time.
You think it's the big brain play to pick Chaac jungle? That way, anything else you play, no matter what it is, probably looks better?
I think it is up play. It's certainly not big brain, though, because it involves losing the first game. I just doubt that's ever good.
That's alpha, though.
That's pretty alpha.
I don't want this game 1,
that's
just
pretty
2 and
Chad,
3.
right? If you're able to take game 1 and then still win the set on the back end by choice. They grab the tier 1 in mid. Hype unit can't defend that, and it's not worth overcommitting for at this stage. Looks like red buff invaded successfully too. But Blanche continue this trickle-up effect in their own favor.
Oh, I'm glad you brought up IAmTheHamster, by the way, because I have definitely been a big fan of this Bacchus performance so far, and I also really want to stress it. In game 1, I'm not saying IAmTheHamster was doing anything wrong. The poor man just wasn't even allowed to exist on the map when he's playing Terra into Odin Aries, so that one we can forgive him for, but man, talk about a resurgence of life from this Bacchus gameplay. He has had so many impactful belly flops that have led to punishing kills against Inbound that typically funnel straight into all the objective success that Blanche fan club has had so far.
It's so funny because Bacchus, I feel like, got buffed in terms of how good he is in lane, and then we kind of took the laning phase away from supports. Like they're not in duo that often.
Yeah, but you're not allowed to farm as a support.
Right, it's a miserable existence. I agree, but nowadays, or at least in this set, they've been able to 2v2 over there in duo, which Bacchus is very good at, and especially now that he's been buffed and has the change there for Chug. So maybe this meta has just kind of given Hamster the chance to play Bacchus.
Almost curious as to why Inbound actually opted to start in duo and not solo, where I think it would have been a lot more pressure for sure between Khepri, Kuzenbo. The lane clear would have definitely been a lot more expected as opposed to the Jing Khepri.
Now the question becomes, Taco, can they defend this Oni Fury? And it looks like they're not even going to give it a try. Oni Fury goes down for Blanche as they continue to expand this lead. This looks almost like a flipping of the names from game number 1. What an impressive performance from Blanche so far to have pushed out this far early on. But what do they need to do to cross this next threshold? As Griff has to agility away, Keegan finds oBoronic. I don't even think that was with this fight. Where'd that happen?
Happened in the mid lane, and Keegan's looking to keep things going right now until Layers will have to back off, however, but same can't be said for Layers. He's trying to run away, finds a nice Cabrakan stun, but Delny's still tanking up a tower, no problem.
Jangaru, though, does get a rooted Lord of the Afterlife off the mark as well, and Layers just barely survives. Hamster is able to hunt down Grip. That's both the hunters and a lot of the damage removed. So Blanche can use this exact opportunity to keep pushing forward. Frenzy popped as well, and that's the tier 2 tower in mid. And I feel like they should start heading towards the FG.
And these buff timers are getting staggered right now from Hype Unit. Griff getting picked off means that even with oBoronic rezzing, it's not going to help them out too much if Blanche Fan Club decides to fully commit onto this Pyromancer. It's still going to be a 4v5, and Wolves going to be the first one in, it seems, but recognizes that it's just a Pyromancer. Will probably try to contest to a certain degree. No, instead, Blanche Fan Club trying to pull a fast one, I think, over Hype Unit.
Just target swapped right over to the FG, and I think this is the right call. Blanche secured the big-time objective for themselves. 21.5 minutes into the game, and Hype Unit so far have had no answers to this Blanche draft. Taco, I mean, 12,000 experience, near 10,000 gold. This is that mark that we talk about where it takes a throw for you to be able to start fighting back into it. They're that far ahead.
Blanche has just been pummeling through Hype Unit from the laning phase to the jungle. It doesn't really matter where the engagements are taking place. It just doesn't feel like Hype Unit has been able to really utilize this Scare's Blessing in anything other than being a defensive tool for Inbound. He said he used that Scare's Blessing more often on himself than anybody else on his team.
Yeah, this game, the tooltip can be rewritten to say Inbound gets 2 more seconds alive. That's what it essentially has done for him this game. And that really mitigates a lot of what makes Khepri strong. I mean, Abduct and the Root are still great, but he really gets his potency from being able to res someone you all in commit. Instead, it's been useless.
Also pretty tough to abduct in when you're just shredded within 5 seconds or less. It's been incredible how quickly Blanche Fan Club managed to kind of dismantle the front line from Hype Unit, but they're keeping this cluster alive as they continue just surging down this left-hand lane. It's so much gold being added to their pockets as if they weren't far enough ahead already.
Hype Unit are going to need something miraculous to stop this push. Frenzy coming out now from Blanche as they make the left side Phoenix their target. Layers goes in immediately, but ends up being deleted. Wolves does at least keep the fight spread out. In fact, finds a nice sumo slam, and there's the good use of the Abduct that you want to buy Wolves a little bit more time on the Kuzenbo to retreat. The left side Phoenix still stands.
Griff got some great auto attack damage out there, and looking to keep it going too onto Delnyy. Might have been more bit off than what they could actually chew. Blanche Fan Club gonna get successfully pushed back. Keegan, having been the first casualty, just seems like it was a much steeper blow to Blanche than Hype Unit losing Layers.
I think it was. I mean, and Wolves had a really good ulti on the back of that one for what it was worth too. But I mean, I said coming into that, they'd need something miraculous to make the defense happen. Clearly, they got it. That left side Phoenix is still extremely healthy, Taco. What is it that went wrong on that one for Blanche? Is it losing Keegan that early, or what slowed them up?
Keegan and Fatal Ghost were finally left super exposed. Just too deep of a dive, I feel, from Hamster, Jangaru, and Delnyy. So focused on trying to kill oBoronic and Griff that in the process they lose track of their own carries. And, well, we saw what happened next. Keegan dies, and the opportunity to siege that left-hand Phoenix gonna be fairly unlikely with Fatal Ghost alone. Freya just not an ideal hunter for trying to bring down those objectives.
Well, it's Arthurian time. 5th slot, and it looks like that's when we start pulling them out. Fail not selected here, Arndite as well. Pride win up there for Delnyy. I mean, it's time. If it didn't work last time for Blanche, I get a feeling it might this time.
Man, imagine if Freya could crit. Like, remember the old school days of SMITE where you could buy Deathbringer on Freya and stuff?
Right, or on whomever.
Imagine if Fail Not would kind of revive that.
It does a little bit, right? Just anyone technically can crit on the person
but it's not
that you
the
mark.
same.
It's not the same.
You know what I mean.
It's not the same.
It'd be so much more fun if you could bring it back. Like, imagine if Freya just buying
fun,
the Fail Not.
But I'm saying not.
Yeah, actually, I don't even know what I'm talking about. I hate Freya, personally.
You all can't see Taco, but like it hit her like a wave. She's like, yeah, actually, why am I saying that? I don't want any Freya at all.
It's too good of an idea. I probably shouldn't be sharing this out loud.
Now that was going to happen. It's been set in motion as Blanche grabbed the Primal Fury for themselves. As I mentioned, they got some nice power spikes from finishing off these new items in the Arthurian tree. Tons of prots for Delnyy, extra damage from Jangaru and chase potential, and then the crits for Keeg.
Look, man, all I'm saying is, once upon a time ago, I used to make jokes about Calder not being good enough. And now he literally flies at you.
Exactly, and then when he dies, you get extra damage, so it's no risk, really. It feels like to send Calder in to try and get some extra control and damage. Yes, I see where I'm right there with you. Yeah. God is good.
I'm trying to think of a good risk potential here.
Like something that you potentially lose is Scotty, or?
You lose your dignity?
By picking it? I don't know. I feel pretty good about myself when I
pretty
love
good. I mean,
I feel real good.
She's some dummy good freelo. I cannot deny this. I'm a little bit lost right now, Finch. I'm still like it hasn't fully sank in for me yet that her dog really flies.
It's pretty cool.
All dogs go to heaven.
What Scotty's able to do nowadays. Fire Giant looks like we'll be going down for free for Blanche.
Well, actually, Scotty can't because she doesn't die.
That's right. You don't have to worry about going. She'll stay alive. That will indeed be the Fire Giant buff now for Blanche. And they should be able to do a much stronger push than what we saw last time. Though to be fair to Hype Unit, they're similarly getting some nice time to try and free farm to round out some of these items in their builds. They're still down 14,000 gold. It's all still relevant, which means that Blanche will have a couple of pushes where they're feeling all of the lead, but Hype Unit only need a couple more defenses to stick around.
Yeah, but see, this is kind of an illusion right now for Blanche Fan Club, right? Because they spent all that time getting the Fire Giant, and look at that left-hand side. That, and I'm not joking about that. I know this sounds extremely sarcastic, but in all seriousness, Hype Unit being able to actually push out that entirety of the left-hand duo lane without any sort of interference there from Blanche, because they were all fairly preoccupied killing the Fire Giant, pushing out the mid and right-hand waves. That's some very important experience for Gryph and Oboronic, and they're both level 20 now. Oboronic, practically full build, also has that Brawler's Beat Stick, and that little bit of anti-heal could go a long way when trying to keep Blanche at bay.
You're not going to trick me, Taco. I know a 15k gold leader when I see one. Let's get in there, Blanche. Over there making salient, relevant points.
Okay.
Trying to win me over to Hype Unit, holding on.
Worst case scenario, they get a Phoenix, right? But that's the best case scenario for Hype Unit, because then that's free farm running
the Fire
to
Minions
your
push
base.
all the way up for sure. And they're able to grab it. That's a good point there, Taco. You know what? I'm on your side now. Hype Unit, they're going to pull this defense off. I got you now. I feel it.
I don't know about all that now. But I mean,
no, this still looks pretty heavily in favor of Blanche, at least from where I'm sitting. As long as they can still find the same patient setups that was working for them early. Jangaru drops the ultimate on the layers to deter him from moving in and joining onto the fight, but the Phoenix still stands, and Hype Unit have now pushed them off yet again. Layers cuts the fight in half with his own tectonic rift, but now it's time for Blanche to push back in once more. But Wolves has gotten Keegan. Takes down Delnyy. Taco, maybe you were right. They're holding on.
oh no, Layers won't be able to hold any longer, but Gryph coming out of Fountain with that Jing wave pass are going to find a nice persistent gust here onto Hamster. The crits are coming through. Won't be able to get the burp stun off in time, and now it's Gryph leading the charge, chasing Jangaru.
Okay, Taco, I'm going to the church of Taco. Call me Taco Fried, whatever you want, and I'm right here with you. What a defense, man, that this team has been able to make.
What is going on?
Yeah, Jangaru should keep running. He keeps looking back like a horror movie, but I would continue to run.
Oh, see, no, but this is just like a horror movie, because when you could keep running straight home, they zigzag through the tree line instead, and then get surprised when the killer catches up to them.
They got to go find somewhere where it makes sense for them to trip. That's what that is. As the Tier 2 tower in left, now under siege from Hype Unit. But Taco, actually what happened? Like, in that last defense on the Phoenix, is it just they went too far again?
Jangaru used the Nemel too soon.
Onto Layers, who wasn't even in
Off
the fight,
to the
right?
side,
Yeah,
and
I don't
Layers
know.
hadn't been involved just yet. Also, I gotta say, this Kuzenbo pick is paid off tenfold already. Wolves might have been getting a little bit abused there from Jangaru early on with those ganks, but Kuzenbo still does all that reflect damage, invested for that Stone of Gaia, the Pestilence, and the Nemean. Such a trio of items that really mesh quite well together when you factor in Kuzenbo's reflection on his kit alone. The Shell Spikes just putting in work. I'm pretty sure the Shell Spikes alone destroyed Keegan.
It's a ton of extra damage that he's able to put out with that reflect to kind of mitigate a lot of what it is that these basic attackers want to do. And even though it's just a splash into the crit, that can certainly still hurt you as well. Off the Nemean, off the Thorns, off the reflect. You just can't attack Wolves if you're Keegan or Fatal Ghost.
Oh, Keegan has the fail knot as well. It's almost working against him right now.
Right.
And I think that if he wants to hold on to this crit-based item into the Kuzenbo, that's clearly been problematic, then he might need to look to maybe sell off those Ninja Tabi for a Bloodforge when he can actually afford that 1,500 gold, but it's tough because Bloodforge alone, what, 2,800 gold plus the 1,500, you're looking at a 4,300 expense at its base, and I guess you could take a little bit of that away when you factor in selling the Warrior tab, or excuse me, selling the boots back, but
Right.
It's still going to take a while, I think, before Keegan can get a reliable secondary sustain item online. And Wolves is just taking full advantage of that. He doesn't mind taking up the entirety of the backline because they keep being left alone.
If they hold on long enough, Taco, then Wolves will sell the Guardian's Blessing, and you won't even know that his build was in an awful, ugly, horrifying order. You won't even know anymore that it's in the wrong slot. Maybe then the curse will lift and they can hold on. And that's why they've been trying to stick this game so long. We'll see if that ends up working. Fire Giant yet again for Blanche. And this time, it is the enhanced version, so they should have a more significant advantage from that. And they do still have a relevant lead. There's still blessings to be sold for Hype Unit, as I was just joking about. They're not all the way caught up with Blanche. I think they still have another fight or two where this lead is fully relevant.
The fact that that left-hand Phoenix, though, is already fully revived from the little bit of poke damage that Blanche was able to actually push into it. I don't know, Finch. It's going to be close, that's for sure, because Blanche had that left Phoenix down to maybe 45% or so remaining. And with the 50% removal of that backdoor protections,
Right.
with or without the wave, Blanche could look to siege, but I'm still not completely sold because as long as Hype Unit kill Keegan, I think the opportunity to siege is out the window.
Now this comp is starting to feel a little bit like maybe they don't have enough peel options. Is that what it is? They have a ton of it, feels like initiation and setup, but I don't know if it works as well when they have to turn around and try and keep their team from being dove. Where are you on this, Taka?
Blanche are trying to steamroll through Hype Unit, and Wolves is just saying no every single time. And if it's not Wolves, it's layers coming through with the Cabrakan, creating a forced separation in the engagement. Those take time to play. That's an immediate disengage for just about any team at a competitive level, and it's exactly what we've seen from Blanche Fan Club. Both times that Layers has managed to get that Cabolt off, we've seen Blanche immediately try to scatter for that exit strategy, and that's usually when Keegan winds up dying.
They are going to change things up this time, though. Look at the split. 3 in left, 1 mid, and then 1 in the short lane here on the right side. Maybe this is what they'll need to finally break this base open a bit. Though I think Wolves can do enough to keep this mid lane safe, as can Layers. So as long as Jangaru has that ultimate, there is some solo potential.
Delnyy having about as much fun as you would expect an Osiris to have, but Inbound getting absolutely shredded right now. Scarab's Blessing already gone.
And they're going to use the ultimate with oGryph. That was a great job with the knockoff from Hamster. And they finally take down the Jing away. But it's a swarm in from Hype Unit to try and lock them down underneath the Phoenix. Hamster making it back out. Delnyy is still A-OK. I think Blanche might have finally hung on here.
But look at Wolves. Wolves is still alive and kicking. oBoronic gonna wind up killing Delnyy, who was stuck underneath that Phoenix, just got too far separated from the rest of his team.
But once they realized Delnyy was stuck in the Phoenix, you feel like they can move in with him. They do finally grab the left side Phoenix. Jangaru this whole time has been in right, trying to grab this Phoenix. He's been mezzed, he's been forced out, and the Phoenix still stands for now. Though there are minions here, they can't do enough.
Just 1 or 2 more autos would be enough to bring down this right-hand Phoenix, but Jangaru knows if he sticks around for much longer, he'll wind up on the menu himself. So, wisely, chooses to back off. Might still end up lingering, however, if Hype Unit let down their guard, even in the slightest. This Nemesis could definitely look to seize the opportunity and just outright claim that right Firebird.
But Inbound showed us, Taco, that when you're someone who doesn't have Thorns and Nemean and a Reflect in your kit, they can do quite a bit of damage to you. Inbound got blown up the second he was caught a moment inside of a CC chain. That was more than enough for Blanche to take him down. They're still plenty potent in terms of damage output.
What sold it for me, though, was Hamster's belly flop. Again,
It was on
just
Gryph?
destroys Gryph. He's in the middle of his escape, and next thing you know it, knocked up out of the agility, doesn't get a chance to even look for the airstrike. And there's no worse feeling than being a Jingwei and dying with that ultimate.
And that was just great trust from Keegan. He goes into Desert Fury before the flop. And then when Gryph turns to try and run, that's when he gets hit by the knockup from Hamster and leaves him with no options. BLNCH have now started to restate their control over this game. Honestly, this is what I thought was going to happen 10 minutes ago when you're talking about Hype Unit slowly getting their items online and getting back into the game. And I was like, no, 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 Taco, you silly goose. And then all of a sudden, here we are, exactly in the timeline you described.
Look, Finch, I'm still not comfortable if I'm Blanche fan club right now. It's 36.5 and climbing, and they have still yet to bring down the Titan despite how disgustingly huge the experience and gold gap was between these two teams for the first 25 minutes.
They are finally starting to get their boots sold on the side of BLNCH. I believe they've all been sold from Keegan, Jangaru, and Delnyy. It's just the duo lane, Hamster and Fatal Ghost we're waiting on to be able to buy that elixir speed and get that 6th item. So they still, even now, have some relevance to this gold lead that they're enjoying. But as you said, experience is irrelevant. The biggest difference makers, I feel like, are the Fire Giant buff and the fact that that left side Phoenix is actually down.
Jangaru putting in work against this right side Phoenix could come back to haunt Hype Unit now as well, because this Phoenix still hasn't even got to that 50% HP threshold, and Delnyy looking to already start pouring in with the rest of these minions. Frenzy has been popped. It's looking like Hype Unit trying to play defense.
Jangaru got here first. Layers was in middle lane with him, so he's not there just yet. But Hype Unit do enough to push them off. It doesn't even matter that they had a brief window where they could fight a little bit early. Instead, BLNCH are just going to fall back towards this FG yet again. Put on the brakes here, Taco. You might be here for a while.
I honestly thought Hype Unit were going to chase for a second or look to contest, but they must feel incredibly confident in their base defense to still not want to try and contest this enhanced Fire Giant and to let it go down for free to BLNCH. One more time. 4 FG so far in favor
And
of the
one
boys
Phoenix.
in blue.
That's not a good conversion ratio, right?
Not the one you want to see, at least, if you're a Hype Unit fan.
Well, Hype Unit, I feel like, has to feel good. 3 Fire Giants and only 1 Phoenix is what BLNCH have gotten so far. That's pretty wild that they haven't been able to get more. Hype Unit have really, really held on inside these Phoenix defenses. And I've said it before, sometimes it can simplify the game. That all you have to do is defend this Phoenix on this side of the map, and it can kind of help a little bit to be in that cornered of position.
Well, I think the other problem for BLNCH, though, is now we're starting to reach a stage of the game where if they counter wipe, that left-hand side is completely exposed. There's a Phoenix there, sure, that Hype Unit would have to take care of, but there is a small chance that if everybody from BLNCH happens to die at the exact same time, which is not outside the window possibility here, then I wouldn't be surprised if Hype Unit actually managed to steal this one out from under them.
They've got a chance, but like you said, I want to make sure I hammer home, that is a small chance that they win a fight cleanly enough to push down. They're going to need to put in some work here to lower the Titan HP and really give themselves a legit chance to grab a W. But as you said, Taco, it's not entirely out of the realm of the possible here yet.
I like this from Keegan, though. The attempt to try and slow down the creeps to essentially stagger up a mass grouping of them that would make it significantly more difficult for oBoronic to drop every single one of them. But the cooldown for these pillars is just too long, and these creep waves are still being taken out one way or the other here. Keegan does have an Anhur, though, as opposed to the boots. That's what he decided to buy as that 6-item slot, which is a interesting switch up to see on a Hunter, but really just that concerned about Wolves.
He's clearly worried at this point. I did want to point out Hamster has the Emperor's armor to try and help him out when they're underneath this Phoenix, not to be matched from the other side. So it's just an advantage for them as Jangaru tries to grab this right side Phoenix yet again. It's layers. Wow, that's a nice tectonic shift, just not quite enough to keep him entirely locked in, and Jangaru can disengage.
Blink for blink coming out of both these junglers, but Layer's mission has already been accomplished. Forces that pesky Nemesis away, clears out the minion waves, and keeps that right Phoenix healthy and strong. or as strong as he can be. Just trying to get it back up to that full health threshold, but Jangaru not looking to give up just yet.
Their time with this Fire Giant is starting to dwindle, though, Taco. Only another minute that they're going to have this buff for. They're really trying to set up for one really good push instead of multiple times that they go hacking away at this problem. They want to try and make sure they're actually able to settle this on their next push.
Honestly think Blanche would be better off just 5-man grouping and trying to storm through the base of Hype Unit.
Looks like they are ready to finally make their push, but it's only 4. Jangaru still in right. Left side Phoenix will come down again. Inbound is the target yet again. He will fall with his ultimate up. That really hurts on the side of Hype Unit to have never gotten anyone res off the Scarab's Blessing.
This could be an opportunity, though, now for Blanche Fan Club to immediately swing from left to mid. Already got the creep waves pushed up. That is one positive of Delnyy having been in this mid lane beforehand. And Delnyy already looking to chain Wolves in place with the Watery Grave immediately to push back Keegan and Fatal Ghost.
15 seconds with the Fire Giant buff as well for Blanche to use to try and burn down this mid Phoenix. Only 3 members are defending in mid, layers in right, and that's still enough to keep this mid Phoenix standing for now. Fatal Ghost is putting in what damage he can, but the mid Phoenix holds on for dear life. Now they push beyond. They want to try and get to Oboronic, but can't quite find him. Mid Phoenix down, but Blanche still can't end this game. In fact, they're going to lose some lives. Layers finds one, Gryph finds another, and Blanche pushed out.
Keegan and Fatal Ghost have got to be careful, but Jangaru, relentless as always, tries to bring down this right side Phoenix, and it could just wind up costing him his life. Doesn't have a speed buff, but the Nene Kappa's not going to be able to close the gap in time. Wolves, without finding that slow, knows that he's got no real shot of actually killing this Nemesis. So Jangaru will be left to clear out waves and keep these minions at Hype Unit's doorstep. But more importantly, taking down that mid Phoenix bench and exposing 2 different lanes to fire minions might just be all the wiggle room that Blanche needed to try and close this one out.
This is it, Taco. Finally, they're in a good spot, as you said. 2 Phoenixes down. Fire Giant about to respawn. That's all Blanche. Hype Unit, perhaps on the back foot. Though perhaps not. They're pushing down the tier 1 here in mid and actually aggressing into the tier 2. Jangaru blinks into the fight. He wants Oboronic in the back, but so disrupted is Wolves with the Watery Grave that keeps Oboronic alive. Root lands on the Fatal Ghost up into the ultimate that gets him over the walls, but now Hype Unit get the tier 2 in mid. Surprisingly, they're the ones pushing.
They get some gold. They manage to kind of push back into Blanche, but ultimately, Finch, if Hype Unit had found picks onto Keegan or Fatal Ghost or even Jangaru in that instance, then I think we can see Hype Unit continue pushing through to even look for a mid Phoenix, which is what felt like the clear intent there from the team. They just weren't able to fully capitalize on the instance because Blanche's carries running a Hype Unit 1 by 1, definitely a little sus, but doesn't end up being punished right away.
No, they make it out of their A-OK, and they will indeed move back for their 5th counted 5 Fire Giants here in this game for one team. And Hype Unit haven't really even tried to defend any of them so far. That's how far behind they've been all game. Fatal Ghost has the boots sold off, so does Hamster. Rod of Tahiti in that slot. I mean, I don't know how you could ask for more power to be coming out at this point.
It is a ton of power to boot for this Freya, and the Magai's Cloak as well is just going to make Fatal Ghost an absolute nightmare to deal with. Because just when you thought that you're going to kill the Freya, if her being up in the air for 3.6 seconds wasn't good enough already, I got some bad news for you, Finch, because that Magai's Cloak is definitely going to be able to bail Fatal Ghost out. It is relatively low hard crowd control from Hype Unit.
It is. So this should give them a lot of value. You know, it's kind of a contrary to how you'd think. I think Magai's Cloak is most strong in situations where they don't have a ton of hard controls. The few that do happen, you're sure to mitigate them. But they don't want right side Phoenix, Taco. Instead, they'll be moving all the way over to the left-hand side to grab that weakened Phoenix, and then I assume back over to right eventually.
Just a little bit easier trying to actually tackle that right-hand Phoenix if there's still a steady stream of fire minions for Hype Unit to worry about in left and mid. Which, of course, Hype Unit don't want to be the case. Delnyy, I mean, the first one inside of the charge, but he's just there to spread bees to everybody else on his team.
Delnyy walks in first, but Layers blinks to the back line. He's got some help from Wolves and already they've got Jangaru quite low. Delnyy too, but it's Hamster they've isolated underneath the Phoenix. Gryph, agilities forward to look for some shots on the Jing Wei. Can't find much there, but oBoronic has the follow-up from the right-hand side. Hamster slowed, and Hamster down. oBoronic gets another kill, and yet again, Hype Unit save their base.
Hype Unit have to back off, though. There's mid-fire waves about to come through, and this mid-Phoenix just recently respawned. And the defense is strong yet again from Hype Unit. That mid-Phoenix gonna hang on there with just a sliver of HP.
Wow.
But they're not out of the woods just yet here, Finch. Hype Unit still have their work cut out for them. Sure, they're having successful defenses, but having a successful defense and also being successful on the offense is where we might start to see some of the cracks shine through.
Maybe, but I mean, it's hard not to be excited about what Hype Unit have done in this game. I think this could have ended 27 minutes in. I honestly
think it should have ended 27 minutes ago.
And arguably should have, right? And Hype Unit has held on. They bought themselves 20 more minutes of farm, of getting their experience caught up. And at this point, it's basically even. Once Inbound finishes this last item he's working on, this is an even game.
Well, this is where things can begin to get super uneasy for Blanche. Because if you're a team that has as commanding of a lead as Blanche did for the first 25 minutes of this game, I can't stress it enough because it was 25 minutes of a beatdown from Blanche onto Hype Unit, and yet they are still struggling time and time again to try to close this one out. They've taken 2 Phoenixes, not just the one, not just...
Yeah, they've struggled.
It's all over the place.
5 Fire Giants, by the way. Like up to this point.
I'm not even factoring in the part about the 5 Fire Giants, Finch, just because it's so unreal that Hype Unit, through every little bit of a struggle, has managed to cling on to dear life in Game 2 here.
It's Midgardian for Inbound that he goes with in that last slot, and it's become clear they're doing everything they can to shut down these basic attackers. That's what the whole comp is in terms of damage. Delnyy, Jangaru, Keegan, and Fatal Ghost, and into all the Reflect from Wolves, into the Midgardian from Inbound. It's going to be difficult for them to keep the damage up. They might be able to defend this. A 2-man knockup from Hamster, though, is a good way to start things. Left side Phoenix goes down, and I don't think Hype Unit were set and ready for the defense, though that is the beads that were just used or a cleanse. The Magai's cloak from Fatal Ghost to keep him alive. Inbound low, so is Gryph. Blanche might have finally done enough.
All the while, Keegan's going to help push in that mid wave to bring down the mid Phoenix. So both Phoenixes currently re-sieged by Blanche, but still looking to slow play it, not trying to overextend too preemptively, because if they risk a pick here, then I don't think Blanche are going to have an opportunity to close out.
So instead, they'll fall back and play it safe for now. Being able to find a nice fight on the left-hand side and finally bring that Phoenix down yet again, and the mid-Phoenix. The right one has eluded them over there in the short lane all game long, but that's okay. I think Blanche are doing enough where they can close this game out cleanly. Now they've gotten these last 2 Phoenixes down. That makes it so much harder for Hype Unit to come out and consider defending an FG.
We don't talk about the right side of the map. That side just doesn't exist. I mean, Wolves is over there, so yeah, I wouldn't want to mess with Wolves' Phoenix either.
Nah, let him have it. He still hasn't, he's still done the best lane so far, right? Because he held onto his Phoenix. So good work there from Wolves.
You're not wrong. These are only true facts.
That's right. Blanche now considering the FG, at the very least, they have Hamster nearby. It looks like we actually have a pause coming through. Jangaru wants to get everything sorted out for him and the rest of Blanche. But let me just, now that we've given this moment to breathe, let's just say that this is great from what Blanche's been able to do to be able to take this game up against Hype Unit and look like they're the ones that have a chance to close it out, though Hype Unit have done a good job to at least keep it close.
Hype Unit have done everything in their power to stay alive, and maybe even more so, honestly.
We're right back into it. And now the Fire Giants under siege here, Taco. Wolves has to dash away inbound, considering trying to stop them, but they've done enough. Fire Giant DPS stopped, and Blanche will instead just come to the Pyromancer. I was worried Hype Unit wouldn't want to defend because of the Fire Minions, but they're here in force.
Looks as though Hype Unit aren't willing to take the risk of trying to defend their base after 2 Phoenixes have already been sieged yet again. And I almost don't blame them, Finch. It's easy to get a little bit impatient here.
I think they're right. At this point, I think Blanche could just jump on the Titan, so they have to come defend out here. Inbound, in trouble early, Scarab Blessing forced. He's still alive, but that important ultimate cooldown already used. Fatal Ghost is low, so is Jangaru, but they're able to reposition and make their way back out of the fight. Now Fatal Ghost needs some help at the left side of the fight. Layers able to claim his life and continues with those trimmers. Hype unit might still have a chance as In gets pulled hamster. He flops away, but Wolves is right there to try and close him out, but they don't have enough.
You have to pay attention to those fire minion waves in mid and left. Keegan with the up down on the Anhur leech.
Wow.
Gonna be able to bring one with them before he ends up taking a spill himself from Oboronic. Three
Super
members still alive from Hype Unit.
Oboronic gets another kill. Jangaru is down as well. Hype Unit are holding on in this last fight, but look at these low health bars. Inbound is too low. Oboronic was too low. They're both in trouble here now as Lord of the Afterlife goes way into left field, but all this time minions are pushing in. Can Blanche do enough just to keep them here and not defending?
Well, that's the problem. Wolves realize in the
back.
process that he's going to have to be the one to back. Cancels
Wow,
his
so
back,
close.
though.
What?
Thought that he could chase them down, maybe? I'm not sure. Maybe thought that the back had already fully
He's here, okay.
gone through. But look at all these archers, Finch.
It's
Alone
too many.
Kuzenbo just isn't enough to clean this out.
Hamster does end up dying to the Titan, but there's just too many minions. Kuzenbo can't do enough by himself, and Delnyy is on the way. He's trying to reflect to keep him out, but it's just too strong. Blanche, in 51.5 minutes, take down Hype Unit, and we got ourselves a game 3.
The Winions, though, for sure.
the
Coming
Winions.
in clutch right there at the very end. That fight was just, it took a little bit too long, and by the time Hype Unit realized that disaster had already struck, it was just way too late.
Dude, they still almost didn't win that. That's crazy.
Yep.
That was really close there towards the end. But as you said, minions get it done for this team. Take a look at the post-game stats here on your screen. Oboronic somehow and all that only died 3 times. I can't believe it. Wolves, it makes sense. I can't believe he died even that one time. But this is just such an impressive game from Blanche to be able to win it.
It was just so much back and forth between these two teams, Finch. Oboronic had so much player damage. All the carries, respectively, definitely putting in the work to try and finish this one up here, but unfortunately for Hype Unit, the defense just wasn't strong enough at the very end.
They couldn't get it done, though. They made them work for it. 51 minutes, 27 seconds, a long time for a game they should have been able to win, essentially 26, 27 minutes into it. But can they regroup in game number 3, the decider match? We'll have the answer for you here in just a few minutes.
The SMITE Console League, brought to you by Titanforge, Hi-Res Studios, INAP, Respawn, SteelSeries, Alienware, and Skillshop. Well, they did it. Going to game number 3. Fantastic stuff out of Blanche's fan club. They actually brought it out. 50+ minutes of gameplay. Totally incredible. But at the end of the day, it is split down the middle 1-1. And we're going to game 3.
They controlled the game from that 21-minute mark after getting the Fire Giant, but it took a while, but they finally did it despite through all the hard displacement. The Kuzenbo and the Khepri was good defense for Hype Unit, just not enough.
And how did that game end, Tully?
Minions.
There it is, baby. We love the
Boom.
Winions. And we love rubber matches. Game 3, picks and bans on the way. Blanche on the left-hand side with the first pick, and of course the first ban of 6. That's what we're getting into in phase number 3. 3 bans for each team, first and foremost, 3 picks, and then 2 bans after that fact, just as per usual. So we added 1 ban at the beginning. There's over 100 gods. Tully, how many exactly?
I think it's like 104.
There's
I think Oleron is like 104.
there it is.
Maybe 105 even.
Maybe 105. I really want you to nail that.
I was like 1 off. Give or take 1.
Well, you know, ups and downs.
I stopped counting after 100. I'm like,
That's
all right,
exactly
we're
kinda what
done now.
That's kind of what I did. I was like, there's 100 plus, and that's where I'm going to stick
Like,
to it.
I was like counting like, all right, we're at 89, we're at 90, 91. I'm like, all right, we got the milestone.
Can you name the gods in order?
Like alphabetically or like release date? Because I can do neither.
By height, actually.
Jormungandr,
There it is.
nothing else matters.
Jormungandr to Vamana.
And then everything else.
No, Ratatasker would be shorter than one, right?
Wait, what if we make the blob
Ready
though?
for you. I am
First
not
pick is going to be
impressed with
Freya,
the
first and foremost. There she is, very strong, but escaping the bans, as Blanche needs to ban out the Odin, which is specific for Wolves, one of the characters that... It's funny, they didn't ban out the Odin in game number 1, thinking maybe it was a prehistoric selection, maybe other characters have been too powerful. Nope. Still incredible. Ban the Odin, Jormungandr, Merlin, and of course, some of the 3 powerful characters across the way. So the Valkyrie will be the first selection overall. And then there for hype unit, we see an Osiris and an Muzen Cobb. Ton of basic attack pressure for sure.
The Freya was a great first pick last game for Blanche fan club. I think that the way Fatal Ghost piloted it was a good success, survived the early game. It was a while until we saw him really pop off with a hasten ring, but once he got to that power spike, he was untouchable.
Cabrakan and Achilles, the selections here for Blanche. And again, Achilles a strong pick. I like him in the jungle. I think he's just another assassin. Doesn't, you know, nothing really exceptional, but nothing really disgusting about him. Just does his job well. And then Cabrakan is worth talking about. Terra chosen from hype. Cabrakan is a character that has not been all that not that popular up until the mid-season, and then one of Layers' go-tos. We've seen more of it here on the console world for sure, but picked 3-4 times today. That's a lot of Cabrakan. What's up, Tony?
I think it's about guys that don't have dashes or jumps. When you're dealing with the Muzen Cobb, it's very easy to lock him down, especially in the tremors. With or without the ultimate, it's just the obnoxious tremors. You might even have to be forced to use purification beads just to walk away cleanly from that. Heavy burst damage, a lot of flexibility with the Cabrakan. You don't know if it's going to go solo, jungle, or support. A lot of ambiguity in the air. Blanche fan club, I think, has a good aggressive comp in this game, similar to the style that they brought out in the previous game where they had Anhur, Bacchus, Osiris, Nemesis.
Well, I like the bans here in the secondary portion. We've got 2 of the carries banned out, Hachiman and the Anhur, but more importantly, I want to focus on the Arlong Shen and the Nike. Arlong Shen,
I lead us to glory,
ban the character.
to victory.
He's just one of the best gods in the game right now. And Nike, on the other hand, very good, but very new, so players need to adapt. Thor, kind of a little spruce up, new paint job on the old guy. He still does the same thing, but a little bit more electric, and you'll see what I mean when we get into game number 3. King Arthur and Ho Yi, though, just standard picks here for the Blanche fan club. King Arthur going to find his way onto the short side, and Ho Yi.
Sounds perfect, right? Is he here?
There it is. Look at that.
He's definitely here after that one. A good team fight control from Blanche fan club with the Ho Yi selection. Controlling a lot of space between the Cabrakan and Ho Yi. King Arthur and Achilles could definitely isolate these targets that try to run away, but this hell is all about the late game.
There it is. Hell for hype. Blanche fan club, a hype unit. The rubber match. Finch, the commentator.
I will take it away here, Tom. Thanks, thank you, Anatoly as well. I don't know why I said aggro. That egg wasn't up there. But it is going to be me and Taco here to bring you the cast for our final game of the day. Blanche up against Hype.
Today has just been bully aggro day.
Dude, every day is, right? So here's the thing about aggro. I know he acts all arrogant and everything. It's really easy to make fun of him. He just takes it. It's very easy.
Why
And
do you
there's
think
so
that
much
is?
to work with, too. There's just a ton. He has a lot of options. I know. I'm sure you all know why. You all know there's plenty of ways to make fun of aggro. Hell mid here for oBoronic, though, to try and get things started off. Jangaru going to be playing the Achilles Jungle. So he's gone from Chaac to Nemesis to Achilles. And I think each time he's gotten steadily better as a jungler, I think.
It's a little bit all over the place, but 2 warriors, essentially, and a raw assassin to boot. I like this pairing, though, of the Achilles because of the fact that it's Keegan with an ADC in the mid lane yet again.
But it's Ho Yi.
But Ho Yi has that ability to kind of just jump on top of whoever it is he's up against, and Hell's no different. oBoronic, while he does have some self-sustain, doesn't necessarily have a huge HP bar to work with in the early game. It's very feasible, I think, for Keegan and Jangaru to look for an early first blood opportunity. But in the same fold, gotta be somewhat respectful towards layers on that Thor.
Well, you're asking why do I think Cabrakan's getting picked? Well, that's not an example. Grip finds first blood. They turn it around on him inside the minion wave. Just way too much damage. And the Cabrakan goes down early.
Hamster just a little bit too focused on poke return as opposed to actual wave clear. That's why you want the Cabrakan. It's to help the Freya with her clear through the tremors, but Cabrakan's dying first. I mean, he'll be level 2 when he comes back to the lane, but it's a steep blow to Fatal Ghost for sure.
That hurts a lot. We talk all the time about how Freya has so much pressure in these matchups. That's a sick wall. Fatal Ghost, though, has an even better banish, just barely keeps him alive. But we talk about how Freya gets so much pressure in lane because she can clear so quickly. But so can a Muzen Cobb. He's not a bad response in terms of push power. He'll be real vulnerable to the banish, a lot more than like a hunter or someone with a dash. But in terms of getting pressured out, he can definitely stand on even footing.
Griff is just looking to spam Fatal Ghost right now and has done a decent job of it so far with the bees. And that Mage's Blessing helping out just the slightest, despite the recent bees nerf. It still doesn't really prevent AMC from looking for the full wave clear if that's what his priority is.
Remember, this is all off the back of a 52-minute game. I wonder if it's tough for Hamster to be able to come back in and remember that he is level 2 again after how long he played being an unkillable behemoth. So once he gets his head back on straight, I'm sure he can make this Cabrakan work for him as Layers lurks in the jungle on the Thor that helped earn him a name along with the Guan Yu when he was here at MSI.
Question is, do Hamster and Fatal Ghost even know that Layers is nearby? Well, they're about to find out as he makes his guest appearance. Finds its down and Griff right on time, the Hamster, but a nice banish from Fatal Ghost is going to prevent any sort of follow-up. Only momentarily, though, because the root is good from Inbound. Beautiful follow-up progression.
It was nice, but Hamsters need to go back in a world where Fatal Ghost hits that banish. I just don't know what much there is for him to gain. He ends up getting rooted and caught out and eventually killed yet again. Hamster goes down 0-2 on the Cabrakan, and you don't pick anyone to go 0-2, but definitely not Cabrakan as Keegan solos out the hell.
That's the danger of having a mage up against this Ho Yi in the mid lane. Leave Keegan alone for a second, find a first blood opportunity, sure, but oBoronic might have a tough time actually looking to just clear his creep wave as long as Keegan's got the utility of those sidewalls in the mid.
They help a lot. Remember, Ho Yi was changed a while back to where he's no longer locked when he casts that ultimate. He can still move around a little bit. And it might seem small, but I think that not only does it help him a good deal, but I mean, it just feels real good when you're casting the ability to still be able to reposition a little bit during that actual fire time. So Ho Yi can still feel plenty potent.
One positive, though, is that oBoronic did have just enough gold to finish off that Book of Thoth, so won't be as far behind as what he possibly could have been had he not actually been able to complete that item.
You're exactly right. It doesn't throw off his back timer now nearly as much as it could otherwise, so he should be able to come in and get stacking without too much trouble. Keegan, on the other hand, went right for the Ninja Taba. That's part of why I imagine he's able to get off to an early start, is if he was doing this boots rush, which means that if he does go Transcendence, it'll be a while, as Delny's in some trouble on the right-hand side. Layers came dunking in, and remember, there's all that extra lightning that comes off the hammer after the ult now. But Wolves wants to keep up the fight, even in the 2v1. Layers still nearby and can follow up, but Fatal Strike gets Jangaru out of there. And now it's all about the blue buff.
Starting to believe that's all Wolves is really after, is just forcing Jangaru to pretty much be neutered. He's not able to do anything now. He's going to have to fall back. Delny's still trying to play defense where he can. Now Jangaru's going to feel a little bit more confident in trying to get involved, but it's just not enough, and all this pressure in solo, it's the side lanes that are getting torn apart here for Blanche right now.
It's so much easier for both sides to go all in when they know where the other two are. I don't even know how much Wolves wants this, but if he can keep Delnyy and Jangaru here, then that means that Inbound and Grift are free to look for pressure in duo without getting ganked all the way up at tower line. I love the way Hypebeat have been playing this early game so far and clearly communicating.
And it's definitely a 180 in comparison to how Game 2 went for Fatal
Yes.
Ghost. He had so much time. Oh, a nasty bounce from Keegan, excuse me.
On to oBoronic.
There's
yeah.
only so much that oBoronic could have done in that position.
Listen, if a sick play happens and oBoronic's there, I assume it's him as well. That's just how good he often plays. But now it's Inbound that's getting caught off. He is able to get some healing off. Looks like he had a shell there as well to keep him healthy. But I mean, there's no other way to spin it. He can't make it out of this. Jangaru completes the kill. And just like that, this game's much closer. Except that Hype Unit have a Hell who's a bit behind.
This is what makes watching both of these teams so much fun also, but hold I thought Layers almost wound up on the montage reel there for Keegan, just narrowly avoiding that ricochet out of the Ho Yi, and will scurry back into the safety of his own jungle, but again, Finch, it's just how unabashedly aggressive these two teams are willing to be into each other.
Yeah, they've been playing on a different level, man, and it just hits different when you say it like that. When you say put him in the montage video, you don't like that, man. So luckily, Layers was able to just barely avoid it. I don't know if I want to say Layers avoided it, as Keegan couldn't find the right angle. He ended up hitting the wall, I think, looking for the double bounce and couldn't get it.
Every angle is an intended one if it connects. If
Yes.
it doesn't, you're just shooting off the warning shots.
Exactly. If it connects, I calculated it, came into jungle practice, or went to practice mode with some easy AI bots and worked it out. Otherwise, yeah, no, I wasn't.
Poor oBoronic though, man.
It's been a rough early game, man.
We joke about this, but he's fallen twice now to the pressure that this Ho Yi can provide in the mid lane, and it's largely up to the rest of Hype Unit to try and help him recover.
Up into the air, though, goes Layers, looking for a dunk target, and it's Delnyy, why not? He goes up into the air to avoid the follow-up damage. The wall does come down for Cabrakan, but Delnyy makes his way out of there. Instead, Hamster now has to run away from the rest of Hype Unit, but they got 3 members here.
All this team sustained, though, as Inbound's going to force IAmTheHamster to use that blink in response to avoid the root off the monolith, but Keegan, having dropped that Sunbreaker, still looking to try and fight, and it's going to be oBoronic who falls first. Jangaru's going to find Inbound in the process. IAmTheHamster could wind up being next, but instead it's going to be a double kill for Jangaru.
And Layers in trouble too. Hammer just barely gets him out of there, but 3 for 0 in favor of Blanche. They've turned this game around. What started off with early side lane pressure has started to deteriorate a little bit. Keegan is just doing more right now for these two teams.
Hype Unit was just scatterbrained on that last engagement. It's like they were so determined to find a pick, they just refused to back off despite the clear reset having already gone through for Blanche.
They did more than enough, right? When Hamster comes up and drops the tectonic rift after Delnyy goes up into the sky, that feels like the point for me where Hype Unit started forcing the fights. When they chase Hamster towards those back camps, instead of just disengaging, and like you said, maybe it is a little bit of tunnel vision from the Hype Unit boys. It's so much easier when you're watching it from the aerial view to say, get out of that fight, than it is in that moment, and it ends up hurting Hype Unit there.
Still, Hype Unit, I wouldn't be surprised to see them maybe try and revisit that blue buff, because as sloppy as that engagement might have wound up for the boys in red, I still firmly believe that they've definitely got the damage to be lethal around that jungle camp.
Red buff now going to go down to Blanche uncontested. Inbounds on those oracles, but this isn't a Gold Fury play. At least it shouldn't be. Blanche have plenty of presence. In fact, it might even be them considering the push. They now have control of the Oracle vision as well. Fatal Ghost looks to try and take away the ward, but they still don't want the Gold Fury just yet. Blanche are out of there.
Keegan is steadily growing, though, into a serious problem right now for Hype Unit. If they keep leaving this Hu Yi unattended, Keegan's lead might just become a little bit too drastic. And whenever a hunter is allowed to be insanely far ahead from the start, that's not a fun time for a Hell. I would almost expect Keegan to maybe even look to prioritize brawlers just to have some synchronization there with Jangaru, who's already finished off the beat stick, which I think was a necessity when dealing with Hype Unit's healer comp.
Yes, this early on, you've got so much to worry about in terms of sustain between Inbound oBoronic and even some of the self-sustain I imagine you'll see from Wolves and oGryph. So I can't critique the Brawler's beat stick by any means. It's the right call here. But Hype Unit still have a Hell. I don't know that they necessarily are too worried just that they're even this early. I know they have pressure everywhere else, but when you're the team with Hell Terra to fall back on in the late game, I don't think you're ever too worried.
It's definitely easy to get a little bit more comfortable. Or I should say it's easier for Hype Unit to not get as flustered over
Right.
the picks that have already taken place in favor of Blanche. Sure, Jangaru and Keegan have definitely had some solid punishing moments up against Hype Unit, but while it's easy to establish a lead on a mid lane hunter, it's also pretty difficult to actually try and maintain that.
And to close it back out, because on the other side, Hype Unit has waiting in the oven this late game home, which could certainly be problematic for them. And they're still plenty relevant in these fights. These last few fights have really only brought Blanche back to even and a little bit out in front. Hype Unit could still at any point win a fight, just heads up. Stone of Binding there for this Terra. Griff has Transcendence. He's working on for his Muzen Cobb. I mean, there's plenty of stuff to be excited about on Hype Unit side, too. I think what we really just have here, Taco, is a close game between two good teams.
And it might get even closer, Finch. Depends on how Blanche Fan Club actually chooses to play around this first Gold Fury, because it's even as though both teams are ready to jump the gun.
Layers makes it out, though, teleports the hammer. Walls lock in Oboronic, and it's time for the Suns to come in from Keegan, and it's just too much damage for the mid lane Hou-Yi, but there's a dunk coming through from Layers. He drops in and gets through the hammer. That sets up for Griff to find Fatal Ghost, but Keegan is having the game of his life right now. He finds one more on the Layers, but can't survive through the damage from Griff to keep things even. It's 3 for 3. Make it 4 for 3. That's a triple kill for Griff Slays, trying to have a big performance before he leaves.
Anybody else but the Muzen Cobb. And Blanche are probably still in the clear there, but 6-0-1 now. A huge bounty of gold that I'm sure Griff was happily just pocketing right then and there. And if this Muzen Cobb wasn't already on the radar for Blanche Fan Club, he is about to become priority target number 1. Definitely worth a huge shutdown bounty at this point.
What about Layers, though? I mean, that dunk to get things started, at least in terms of hyping and getting back into it, was huge as well. Hitting 4 members clumped up in that choke
See,
point.
this is the classic, I should say, I don't want to call it a catch-22, but in a sense it almost is for the Cabrakan, because you want to corral everybody into the centerpiece of your tectonic plates, because that's where you're going to be able to deal the most damage with your tremors and have the best eligibility for the rest of your team to follow it up. But for Layers on Thor,
Right.
Envelope Dawn could not have been more primed and ready for him. It was like Blanche Fan Club set up an open invitation featuring Layers.
All Layers, land here, please. And he absolutely did. And that set up for Griff to find a ton of damage. That means now we're going to be looking at who can have more impact, Keegan or Griff, in these next couple of fights, because that might start to break it open.
I just remember what it is I wanted to say.
Go ahead, yeah.
The damned if you do, damned if you don't line. Because if you fight inside of Hamster's ultimate, you're probably going to have some benefits, but you might also have the entire downfall of looking to smother the same enemy target, and then you wind up being the hitter instead.
They ended up, unfortunately, getting caught. So that fight was still pretty even, slightly in favor of Hype Unit, obviously, because Griff got all that farm and they did get more kills. But it's hard to say that defiantly went one way or the other. Maybe you could say it went Hype Unit's way because they're the ones with a hell who gets to keep on farming the more this game stays even.
I don't know, man. Oboronic is, I don't want to call him a non-factor, but he's definitely been getting abused so far. That's
a lot of them. And he's working on Breastplate now for some much-needed CDR and to hopefully keep him alive inside of Keegan's damage. I mean, but the Cabrakan ultimate into the Suns from Hou-Yi, that combo has left Oboronic with no way out. You can't cleanse your way from it, and he's not going to break those walls down particularly quick. So that's been just free damage.
But it might just be time for Blanche to stop investing so many of their team fighting resources into this hell that's already 2 levels behind Keegan, and maybe start prioritizing Griff, who's really been the unsung hero here for Hype Unit. Okay, I'm sorry. I shouldn't say, I can't keep crediting Griff this heavily, because Layers has definitely been putting in work, but man, if they get one more team fight like the last one we just saw, Finch, that might just be enough for Oboronic to be fully caught up.
Okay, so Hamster and Fatal Ghost have been doing the long con onto Griff, but Hype Unit have been doing the long con onto them. In comes Layers, dunking down to control Hamster. Fatal Ghost already fallen. A double now for Thor. Somehow Gryph lasted just long enough for his team to show up out of the wings. Now they can head right over to the Gold Fury. It's just Keegan on this side of the map, the only one who can defend.
Layers already looking to meet him and keep this Ho Ying completely out of the pit. He's going to be able to use his beads, Aegis, but Keegan might still get the better end of him. Going to look to disengage, but might not be able to disengage in time. Gold Fury's already fallen in favor of Hype Unit, and Keegan's going to join the rest of his teammates in that respawn timer.
Wolves was able to keep two members busy. Lord of the Afterlife gets him over the wall, but Delnyy is still right there. The tether's enough to buy him some time, and Wolves makes it out. But that fight in duo is sick from Hype Unit to keep this game going in their direction. Gets in the Gold Fury, the Tier 1 tower, tons of kills. I mean, that's exactly what you call for in that moment.
And the staggered respawn timer. Nearly ended up being a T1 tower, but a good recovery from Jangaru and IAmTheHamster to play defense for their mid laner, who will be coming back onto the playing field in a couple of seconds or so. More importantly, the Fury having been stripped away now means that Hype Unit can look to just turn all their focus towards this Fire Giant pit instead.
That's right. That's one less neutral objective you have to worry about being stolen away, especially by this double basic attack composition. So Hype Unit can kind of breathe easy for a moment, get some farm for oBoronic, as you said, who struggled so far this game. But now he's level 15, right there with Keegan. It only takes a couple of deaths to go from a stellar 4-0-4 game to now a middling 4-2-4 one where you're just even with the other team.
Peep the Wingblade as well from Gryph, so clearly concerned that some of those slows coming through from Hamster and Fatal Ghost. Well, no need to worry about slows when you've got a little bit of additional movement speed. Layers should be a little bit more careful. I think all of Hype Unit needs to be careful about the way they turn these corners, man, because Keegan has just been head hunting with these ricochets.
He's been having a great game so far. Hamster wants to get things started on the inbound, but can't find the stun. Layers is up, looking for a target for the dunk, and he finds Fatal Ghost. The second he lands, oBoronic gets a much-needed kill. Hamster hit by the wall at max range, and Layers comes in. That's plenty of damage in his own right, but now Wolves is here too to say hello and split the fight up. Delnyy so far is doing okay in the 1v4, but Layers teleports the hammer and gets away from Jangaru.
A beautiful release, though, from Delnyy of that King Arthur ultimate. It's going to keep him alive for a few seconds longer, but it's still just not enough. Delnyy will wind up falling here to Gryph, and on the backside, it's all about the Wolves show, baby. Trying to handle the 2v1 between Keegan and IAmTheHamster, but this is not a fight that he wanted to completely finish out. And in fact, Keegan without the Sunbreaker, he can't play defense now.
It's much harder for him to try and defend, to the point where he just leaves with the dive bomb. Tremors and then the slow from the Suns was way too much. I don't see how Wolves is ever supposed to make it out of that one. And Hype Unit come out on top. They grab the tier 2 in duo, and they come away with one more kill, I believe, to their name. They're gonna start moving towards Pyromancer, it looks like.
Doesn't it feel kind of weird, though, to see Wolves run at two different people at the same time and not kill them both?
Yes, in terms of me expecting Wolves to always be able to get
Wolves
those kills.
almost always gets those. So
he still did his job, though. He kept 3 members busy, the same way Delnyy was in left. It's just that they were able to get the kill a little bit faster onto Delnyy and then counter collapse. And he ends up going in favor of Hype Unit. Now they'll grab this Pyromancer too.
Yeah, but I feel like I just got baited because I was getting excited thinking I'm about to cast Wolves in a 2v1. And your boy is just getting manhandled by Keegan all the while. Speaking of Keegan, a low from Layers.
Layers drops in, and with a little bit of help from his friends, brings Keegan down quite low. For once, the ricochet is not quite on the mark, though I think it might have been where he wanted it, to deter them from pushing forward any further. And that means Hype Unit finally had to take their foot off the gas, up about 6,000, maybe a bit less.
Yeah, so it's not like the whole world didn't already know it, but Layers is kind of sick nasty on the Thor.
Yeah, he's good at Smite and good at Thor in particular, yeah.
These Anvil of Dawns have just been crushing against Blanche Fan Club. Not just once, not just twice, but 3 times now. Layers has single-handedly managed to not only keep his hunter alive and safe from pressure, but also just a complete turnaround of an engagement. It's just, when you have a Thor that can consistently find a home with his ultimate, there's no better feeling in the world.
No,
you feel like you can do anything.
It makes life so much easier for you. Griff is the benefactor, 7-0-5 and having a monster performance in his own right. And he gets overlooked a bit because this team is so stacked, but he's a win condition on his own, man. He just doesn't have to do it that often because Wolves, Layers, and oBoronic are that nuts. Fatal Ghost forced into the Valkyrie's discretion early on, but this fight's already done. Hyphen got what they came for.
Gotta be careful though. Layers definitely still lurking, and Fatal Ghost still hasn't had a chance to regroup with the rest of his team, so only 4 members from Blanche actually looking to play defense, and it's going to be IAmTheHamster who's isolated first.
On the right side of the wall, too, to keep him in the worst positioning. Layers goes up, but Hamster, the easy target's gone, so he'll just settle for Keegan instead. A double kill for Wolves, as it's a 5v3 in favor of Hype Unit. Delny's incredibly low, has to keep running. They haven't even gotten to tier 2 yet. Got to go back and get that one first, fellas. But it's been all Hype Unit.
They haven't even gotten a fire giant yet.
That's right.
They're taking the structures before even worrying about the FG. With only 3 members left from Blanche Fan Club, this Phoenix is looking toast.
Inbound gets Jangaru. Layers finds Fatal Ghost. It's just Delnyy left. Hamster should be back up in a few seconds. Mid Phoenix down. This might not be the end just yet, but Hype Unit are going to go for it. They're pushing right into the Titan room. Not going to give Blanche a chance to try and get back into this one. Titan down to half HP. It's going to be close, Taco, if they have any way to close it out. But Hamster has been shredded. Delnyy in trouble too, goes up with the ultimate, but look how they juggle the aggro on the actual Titan. oBoronic keeps him healthy, and Hype Unit gonna take the set in 3 games.
And that is the beauty of hell. oBoronic might have been getting a little bit bullied all throughout that early game. Okay, very bullied all throughout the early game, but he came through when it mattered most, and that's just getting the cleanses off, getting the team sustain off, and ultimately providing just a little bit of that movement speed to kind of keep that steady rundown pressure going.
Yeah, Griff might be stepping away, but let no questions remain about my man's potential to come in and carry a game if he needs to. Excellent performance from him. Love seeing Layers on the Thor. I mean, we heard all those buffs coming out. We're like, that's a Layers buff, right? Like Layers going to be even better now on Thor. I mean, just great performance all around from Hype.
Oh, well, we've seen what the console guys are capable of, at least as far as some of these new god buffs are concerned. Maybe a little bit of foreshadowing as to what kind of picks and bans we can expect to see throughout the week as well.
It only took a couple of fights, though, Taco, for this to get out of control from Blanche. This was even for the most part early on throughout this game.
I think it all draws back for me towards that one period by the red buff where Layers just finds a beautiful dunk down opportunity onto, what, 3 or 4 different
I think
members?
it was a
4-man stun from Layers that, after the fact, the Griff was able to capitalize on, and that's what really pretty much jumped his scoreline and his gold in hand so far ahead. I mean, when you go from having, what, 3 kills to suddenly 6, it's so much gold right away that it just felt impossible for Fatal Ghost to try and recover there.
That duo lane fight was really important to me as well, Taco, because it looked like Griff was getting kind of okey-doked. He was going to get in the 2v1, but it was actually Hype Unit who I think were setting up Blanche in that fight, and they end up winning it pretty handily. That was another big turning point for me in that one, too. But Hype Unit come out on top 2-1. I'll let it get back over to the desk and have them break it down.
Hype Unit! There it is, baby. Coming through in game number 3. Don't need nearly as much time as game number 2. And that one goes in the direction of Hype. Everybody feeling it. A belated birthday present there to mid laner oBoronic as he celebrated his birthday. If you didn't see the post, what a cake, dude.
Yeah, the cake that his mom made was just fantastic. Didn't have the most success in the early game, but playing the hell, he was able to transition very well. I think that he's going to celebrate quite nicely.
That's what it is, man. Cake, it's dessert. And just like that, we see him climb up. Hype Unit looking fantastic in their own world. Nemesis on top of their world. That was the 3rd match that we saw this afternoon. They took easy care of big money. Really, just kind of a stop.
Yeah, that game, they are who we thought they were.
So, you see the Blanche fan club, how much I like the logo.
Okay.
I also like the logo of whatever that E-Boys team in number 2. It was E-Boys Gone Wild, also a dog. We enjoy it. Fatal Ambition up on top here at 1-0, and Hype Unit going to mirror that as well, 1-0. A little bit worse in the plus-minus, but that be what it be. And that'll be interesting as we watch this this phase kind of dwindle down. Will that 150-minute game versus Blanche wind up being the differentiating factor. Because right now, that's what keeps them out of first place.
This is a start to something much greater now, F. This is the first week of many to come, and teams are still figuring out the meta. I think a lot is about to change as the weeks progress.
I'm amped to be back, though, man. This is sick. We had 13 weeks, and then we took that nice little 2-week break, and we're back at it again. 13 more weeks. Monday is going to be console. Tuesday, tomorrow, obviously, join us for the minor league. You're going to want to catch up for the games later. That's perfect for Wednesday. Esports Weekly shows up. Agro's going to bring you all the business and everything you need to know for Thursday and Friday, where we get back to the action. The Pro League returns with phase number 2. Are you excited, Toli? Me too. Thanks for watching. Shout-outs to everybody in the building. Shout-outs to everybody in your building. So from us to you, peace and much love to you.